Hello and welcome to the Haunted Housewives podcast with your hosts Carly and Tara. Join along as we dive deep into the world of all things paranormal, spooky, and sometimes downright creepy. With that said, let's get straight into the show. Are you ready?
Hi, welcome back. Didn't mess
Hello.
up time. Whoop, whoop.
We're getting better.
Yeah, so professional.
5 episodes and we're finally figuring it out. That's okay.
No, one of these days we're going to learn how to edit too.
Yeah,
Maybe.
but who
I
cares?
kind of like all of our charming sidebars.
I do
But
too. I like those.
before we start, it's been a while since we've given you guys a noise disclosure. And I'll tell you right now, I'm alone and I got spooked in my house and I didn't put my dogs away. And my dog is enormous and he barks so loud. So like, absolutely at some point you're going to hear my dogs. I apologize in advance, but not enough to put them away.
Right. And I have children meandering around. Everybody
Yeah.
has had clear directives to get what they need and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But you know, they don't listen. So you're going to see a
Jeez,
child wandering behind me or
let
hear a
us
child
podcast
behind
in
me.
peace, children.
Yes, seriously.
I still have a bit of a cold, so I'm also going to apologize that I'm going to be like sniffling and, you know,
Goobering. That's okay.
yeah.
That's all right. It happens. We're human, right?
Yeah, exactly. Germs are a thing. Not even COVID, just like regular germs took me
Is that
down.
even allowed now?
I
Are
feel
we
like it
allowed to
shouldn't
have
be
normal
allowed.
colds?
I wash my hands like crazy. I'm still one of those people that sanitizes after I go shopping. I'm wearing my freaking mask. Tell me why I got taken down by the common cold. It's garbage.
Total garbage.
Anyways, do you want to hear something that happened to me yesterday?
I do.
So
Always.
I was doing some readings. They were super fun. And in between, I was like, I need to burn some incense to like, you know, clear the energy in between. Because the first reading I did was super cool. And, but you know, sometimes when you do readings, they just kind of like stick. They don't like stick to you. But anyways, I needed to clear.
It lingers.
Yeah. So I was burning frankincense resin, which does smoke a bit, but I do this like pretty regularly and I've never had a problem with it until yesterday. I put it on the exact same spot that I always put it at and my fire alarm went off. So I was like running. I ran over to the alarm panel and I was like, oh, I can't remember the code.
Oh no.
So I ran back to my phone and all three of my kids are like wide-eyed, covering their ears. And I'm like, sorry, there's not a fire. It was me. Oh, already. There he is. Oh my gosh. Should have put him away. Anyways, so I turned off the alarm on my phone, and a few minutes later, the alarm company called me.
Gosh.
But it only rang once and it never connected. So I was like, okay, what do I do about this? Well, a few minutes later, I got a ring on my doorbell and the fire department.
The fire department showed up.
Make sure that the house wasn't on fire until the dogs were barking at the door and I like squeezed out, like just made a crack, squeezed out. He was barking just like that. And I was like, hey, sorry, everything's fine here. I didn't realize the alarm company was going to send you guys. I have the windows open, the doors. It was just a bit of extra smoke. And one of them was like, did you burn the bacon? I was like, yes, I burned the bacon. It definitely wasn't being witchy and burning frankincense and sent the fire department to come and find me.
God. Yeah. It wasn't candle magic gone bad. No big deal. Did you burn your blinds once before too?
Yeah.
Calling you out.
Yeah.
So I have your first incident with fire.
That's my first. I burn stuff all the time, to be fair. I feel like once you get into witchy shit, you just like something unlocks and you're like, burn all of the things. Bay leaves, burn them. Peppercorns, burn that shit. Just burn everything. But yeah, so I had a candle lit and it was in a little candle holder. It was a little spell candle. and the blinds weren't that low. Like there was a lot of space in between them, but I had it sitting up there. And again, I've had candles there a bunch of times. Used to be very noisy a bunch of times before with no problem. So this time I was sitting on the couch and I was like, what is that smell? It smells like plastic. So it didn't actually catch on fire. I'll take a picture of this for Instagram. It's still there. We haven't replaced the blinds yet. Now they just stay open all the time because I'm constantly burning shit. Which is fire safety. Learn from me. Don't burn. I don't know what the problem was. I burned way smokier stuff than that frankincense. I don't know why the fire alarms chose that day. And I've it way closer to the actual fire alarm than it was. But anyways, the window, it was like the candle was here, the blinds were up here, and just like the heat from the smoke just like made it really hot. So it didn't actually catch on fire. But yeah, my husband came home and I was like, hey, it kind of burned the blinds.
Oops.
It's okay. It was cool.
I have not set anything on fire yet, except I was burning some bills. Like, I was burning the account numbers off and I had it in my little cauldron and that thing fucking took off and it was like, and so I had to take it outside. And so I had to take it outside. Everybody's like, what is that smell? Jeremy comes running out. He's like, oh my God, what's on fire? I'm like, me.
Sorry.
Trying to be a responsible adult and not put my account number in the trash.
This is how I live my life, okay? Back off my dick.
He was just trying to call in more money. I was trying to negate the debt and call in more money.
I didn't even have a good reason.
It went wrong, okay?
No. What my spell candle was for. Yeah, I took my frankincense. I had one of those little charcoal discs and you put the resin on top and then you're putting resin and it smells gorgeous. Yeah, I ran that shit to the sink, poured water on it. I was like, stop, 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 stop. Opened up the windows, opened up the back door. Yeah, I was so embarrassed.
Like, Jace, Mom, what are you doing? Oh my God.
The fire department showed up. They were like, Mom, the fire department just came.
You're like, I'm aware.
Yeah, thanks. I just talked to them.
Don't tell your dad.
They were like, are you in trouble?
You're like,
I'm not
peeking through the door, trying to like not let the dogs out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like I went all the way out, but I was just like, hi. I was like, gross too. I know that this doesn't matter, but like it matters to me. I had been laying on the couch and doing readings all morning. I was not like this. I was not put together. My hair might have looked the same, but I was wearing yesterday's clothes that I also slept in. I mean, they didn't know that, but I'm just still telling you like the level of gross that I was feeling. I was like, of course. Of course.
Hey.
Hey,
what's up?
Yeah, I definitely burned the bacon. I was not burning herbs.
And what an asshole to ask some housewife kind of question. Did you burn the bacon?
I didn't even think about it. He was like, he was smiling at me, and I was just like, yeah, yes, that's what we're gonna go with. It burned the bacon.
Well done, worthless housewife. Your husband's gonna be so mad at you.
Yeah. You burned the bacon. Your house is going to smell like smoke forever. Guess
go.
What? It didn't even smell. I still don't even know how. Actually, it was funny though, because the second person that I was doing a reading for, I let her know. I was like, hey, this just happened. I'm so sorry. Your reading's going to take like a little bit longer. It was crazy. She goes, yeah, weird shit like that always happens to people who read for me. And I was like, okay, we're going to go with that. Not me not being fire safe. I was being fire safe, but
I'm passing the buck on the spirits today.
Oh my gosh.
Well done.
Seriously.
Well done.
Well, you want to talk about Amelia Earhart?
Yes. So today we are, as she just said, talking about Amelia Earhart. Now I have to tell you, this is a topic that I do know, and it is very near and dear to my heart. And I can't even explain to you why. I was telling Carly this when we were talking about it. There's something so significant about her. And I think it was just because she was just like, I'm doing this and I don't care how many times it takes me, I'm going to do it. And then it ended badly. And it's almost like, oh, as a woman, I'm like, damn it.
I don't
Damn
know.
it. Like I proved everybody right. Like I feel like that. Like she was just like, fuck this.
She proves that she was a complete badass.
She was a badass,
I feel like
like
Amelia Earhart to you is Anne Boleyn to me, because I am
oh yeah.
100% obsessed with her. Sorry.
I love her. And every time I watch documentaries or stories about her, there's just something so endearing about her. Like I see that passion in her eyes to do something, not only for herself, but for women, like she was just like, if I can do this, so can you. And let's just break those boundaries and barriers about women not being good enough to do things. And this is a man's world and we fit here too. And it's just like, I don't know. I'm so proud of her for doing what she did. And I'm so sad to see it end that way. So I'm really excited to talk about this because there are some things that I think you found that I didn't know. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I needed to hide things from her this time because she already knows.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like most
people know. Yeah. I mean,
I
don't want the details of her life because I forget about those.
Her story ranks up there like with the Titanic, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's about at that level. So there's nothing haunted connected to this as far as I know, but it is a good disappearance. And I saw it recently.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then just kind of a side note, the last time we did our recording and we posted about this, we were like, who are we going to talk about next? And one of us were like, Amelia Earhart. And when I was pulling up pictures, I found her pilot's license that was given out on
it was that Sunday.
Yeah, on May 16th, 1923, I believe it was, which was 2 days after we had just recorded. So I feel like this is so much her just being like, talk about me. Let's talk about it. And her birthday's coming up in July. There was lots of little things that kind of, I don't know. I feel like she pulled us in.
I feel like that.
She's like, it's my turn. Let's do this.
Amelia.
Hey. Go. Like, get in there.
Historical women? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm the gal for you.
Absolutely. All right. Let's get into it. I'll stop interrupting you.
Okay. So first of all, I feel like I went maybe too far into her life. We had the opposite problem. Last week, I was complaining about there not being enough information about Sarah Winchester. This week, I had too much information and all of it seemed important. So I was like, like
yeah, I was just going to say, is there such thing as too much information when you're talking about somebody who like changed history?
No, but also this would be so long if I included everything. So I tried to include a bunch, but there were a few, like some of her, when she started getting into like all the records she set, I was like, okay, well, I'm probably stop. Sorry, already the dogs are Gunner standing at the window growling because how dare people walk past our window?
Dare they?
Okay, so Amelia Mary Earhart was born in Okay, well, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. She was born in Kansas. You can look up where. To Samuel Edwin Earhart and Amelia Amy Otis. And Edwin and Amy are in air quotes. So I'm assuming that that's what, not air quotes. I did air quotes. They're in quotation marks. That's their preferred names. And she was born on July 24th, 1897. She was the second born child, but the first baby was stillborn. So kind of a bummer. And also on the bummer side, Amelia's grandfather, maternal grandfather was not a fan of her parents' marriage at first because Edwin wasn't a good enough lawyer. That's what Wikipedia said. Apparently he wasn't a good enough lawyer. His career wasn't on the right track as far as the grandpa's standards.
Wow.
But that kind of comes up a bunch. So, it is important. Amelia did have a younger sister. She was 2 years younger, and her name was Grace. And Amelia and Grace were pretty close. I mean, their whole lives. Amelia was given the nickname of Mealy or Millie, and her sister Grace was called Pidge. And those nicknames stuck with them like into adulthood.
Oh, wow.
So I know, Pidge.
Pidge? Like pigeon?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, in Lady and the Tramp, when the tramp's talking to the lady, he calls her Pidge.
He does?
I think so. That could be wrong.
I thought it was Midge.
Oh, I thought it was Pidge.
Probably is. I haven't seen that movie in so long. I'm like, Midge. That's not her name. That's funny.
The Wikipedia page says that their upbringing was a little bit on the unconventional side. Amy Earhart didn't believe in raising her daughters to be, quote, nice little girls.
Not a girl.
Yeah. And honestly, this was what, like the 1800s? So that's like,
Yeah.
that's
Wow.
fast. Feminism before feminism was a thing. Maybe it was a thing then. I don't know. Their maternal grandmother was known to express how much she hated the bloomers that they wore. So I Googled it because I was like, bloomers, isn't that like the puffy undergarment that they would wear under their dresses?
The pants. Yeah, they're like the long kind of
like go around your
calf
knees.
wear. Yeah.
So those are supposed to go under your dresses, but Amy Earhart let them wander around in that. So scandalous. And Amelia loved the freedom of pants, but also I think she was aware that the other girls wore dresses. I've never really been a dress person myself, so same, Amelia. Yeah. I'm way more comfortable in pants. And I don't even think it's like, I don't know, dresses just feel too fancy. I had to wear a dress every Sunday when I went to church, but I remember even being little and not liking dresses. So I don't think
that like dresses either until recently. And because I'm fluffy, I've gotten a bunch of dresses because I don't wear shorts. I'm like, this is the alternative. There's wind and air that moves through there. So it's like
a nice cool breeze. I want to like dresses. I feel like
I have them in like all the colors they make because they're so cute.
Yeah.
And they're comfy.
Some circle skirts, you know, like the high-waisted circle skirts, kind of like from the 1950s. I pointed to my face, but we're below my boobs, so you can't see. When I broke my foot in the fall because it was cold. Well, actually, no, it wasn't cold, but like I couldn't wear jeans because I had a boot on for forever and my leggings were all too long. So I wore those skirts and I was like, look at me twirling. Like, I still have them, but I don't wear them now that my foot's no longer in a boot. So I don't know. Anyways, Amelia was a little bit of a tomboy. Amelia and her sister loved adventure. I mean, I guess that's a lot of kids, especially back then, because it's not like they had TV or anything. So like,
right.
Go out and play. That's the way it should.
You mean use your imagination?
Excuse me?
Excuse me? Not play on the iPad or the nanny, as I like to call it?
Oh, man. What? Sometimes I feel guilty for how much iPad time my kids get. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm exhausted. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, you can do that. I don't have the energy to make you do something. And then I'm like, I remember being their age and like roaming the neighborhood. Like,
yeah. Come home when the streetlights come on. It's dinner time. Okay.
In my neighborhood, I had like an elementary school teacher and we used to just go to her house. And now I'm like, first of all, that sounds like a great way to get murdered. She was super nice. Nothing bad ever happened to me. But the point is, kids these days, you know? So Amelia and her sister Grace would explore their neighborhood together. And one of the things they liked to do was hunt rats with a rifle, which like, I don't know why. It just made like, I was like, ew, maybe just because it's rats. I don't know. I feel like if it had said like, I don't know, pigeons or squirrels, I would have been like, oh, okay.
Maybe they were big.
Maybe. I mean, they were in Kansas, so
I was
don't
just
know.
gonna say maybe they're in Kansas and they live. Where did they live? Did they live?
Well,
They have a farm,
I don't really know.
cornfields, corn rats.
Corn rats. My great grandma used to say carn.
Corn.
Carn.
It's corn on.
And I remember that. It just came out of me. Carn rats. Anyways,
Corn rats.
aside from hunting rats, they would also go exploring outside, climb trees, and it said sledding down a hill. And the way that it was described on Wikipedia said belly slamming. It said belly slamming on her sled. So like that can't involve snow, right? I don't know what belly slamming is. Someone from Kansas, please comment and tell me, what is belly slamming? I didn't Google it. I probably could have, but I didn't.
It's probably the same idea. Just taking the sled and sliding down on it.
Probably, I mean, yeah.
Into each other, like you go over on this hill and you go over on that one and let's meet in the middle. Boom.
Isn't Kansas like flat though? Are there lots of hills in Kansas?
I don't know.
Like, I feel like I'm missing a piece to this puzzle. I know that it probably snows in Kansas, but the way that it was worded, I was like, does this not involve snow? What is happening here? What is belly slamming?
We need somebody from Kansas to fill in the gaps on that one.
Who is from Kansas? Tell me. Tell me these facts. They also collected bugs and toads. And when she was older, she also played basketball. And when she was older, she took an auto repair class, which probably came in handy when she decided to be a pilot. Because, you know, I know planes and cars are different, but you got to have that mechanical know-how,
Yeah, exactly.
So in 1904, their uncle helped them make a very DIY version of a roller coaster. I don't know what, maybe the uncle had a little bit too much to drink that day. I just want to know what happened that made him think, yeah, let's nail these boards to the shed and just send them down on a crate. Just
the best uncle ever.
We're gonna go for this. It's gonna be fine.
I have an old mining cart. Let's just stick you in it.
That's the picture. Like, that was my mental picture. Very Little Rascal style building where like wood is precariously stacked on each other, nails halfway sticking out. I don't know. Amelia did go down this ramp. It can't have been super successful because I'm quoting from Wikipedia. She emerged from the broken wooden box that had served as a sled with a bruised lip, torn dress, and a sensation of exhilaration. She exclaimed, "Oh, Pidge, it's just like flying."
Oh boy.
Like, yeah. But surprisingly, in 1907, Edwin Earhart, that's the dad, took a job transfer. He had been working as a lawyer for the railroad company. And then later it said he worked as a claims officer for Rock Island Railroad. And I don't know if that's a different title for lawyer, but I'm going to go with, I don't know. He was a lawyer at some point. Is he still a lawyer? It's up for debate. So
different department.
They moved to Des Moines, Iowa. And the parents moved without the daughters at first, but they must have taken a family trip out there because he took Amelia and Grace to the Iowa State Fair, and that's where she saw her first aircraft. And
cool.
It must have been pretty janky. I would have thought that given her history of like going down a wooden crate on a janky
milk crate,
like, yes. Sign me up for this. But no, she was quoted as describing the plane as a thing of rusty wire and wood and not at all interesting, which really surprised me because I was like, okay, Amelia.
Okay, but wait a minute. When did the Wright brothers build the plane? Wasn't it like 1904 or something like that? Because she was born in 18 something.
Mm-hmm.
This is how bad I am at history. So it had to have been something similar to that.
I think it was.
Am I wrong? Or am I like
No.
I'm way
I
fucking
think
off.
it was an early plane.
An early plane. Had to
That
be.
was look janky. I don't know.
Probably did.
So Edwin took the job transfer, but at first they couldn't afford, or like the house was too small. So Amelia and Grace stayed with their grandparents. That sounds weird to me, but like I've heard tons of stories where the parents just like move cross country and are like, here, kids, go stay with your uncle. Like, we'll come back for you one day. So that must have been more normal for the time. I don't
Okay.
know.
I had to look this up because it was really bothering me. Okay, so the Wright brothers invented their first plane December 17th, 1903.
Okay. So, and that was
I was close, so maybe it was something like that.
So that was a pretty early plane. Maybe it was one of the weak ones. And also, you know what, Amelia? I'm going to give you that. I wouldn't want to go on a wooden plane either. That sounds
You've
dangerous.
seen this thing? It is freaky.
I just spit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
So, anyways, they lived with their grandparents, and they were homeschooled most of their childhood, and they had a governess. And Amelia didn't go to public school until her and Grace moved with her parents to Des Moines. She was around 12, so she would have been, well, my daughter's 12 and she's in 6th grade or just finished, so 6th or 7th grade.
Mhm.
Money seemed to be going pretty well for a change for Edwin and Amy. They moved into a bigger house and they hired 2 servants. But Edwin was a bit of an alcoholic. So
Man.
I know. I kind of was like, I was hoping when I started this, when I read about the grandpa, I was like, okay, grandpa, are you just being a dick? What's going on here? Yeah, I think grandpa had a pretty good picture of Edwin Earhart. And to be fair, he does seem like he tried his best to support Amelia. I think he was really excited about her aviation career. I think he tried, but alcoholism or any kind of addiction can, kind of mess things up.
It can. Mm-hmm.
Anyways, he had a bit of forced retirement for a little while.
Mm.
He did try to sober up and get his act together, but it didn't quite work out. He never got that job back. But around this time frame, Grandpa died and left quite a bit of money behind. I don't have a number, but he put in his will, he put his Amy Earhart's portion of her inheritance into a trust fund because he felt like Edwin would waste the money, which is probably a smart move on Grandpa's part.
Yeah, way to go, Grandpa.
Yeah, I kind of have the same part, and the same part. I have the same feelings as him of like, yeah, put that crap in a trust. Don't give it to Edwin.
Yeah.
He can't be trusted with money, clearly. So Amelia was heartbroken with her grandfather's passing. She called it the end of her childhood, and that's really sad. I don't know how many years they spent living with. They didn't give me like an exact date of when her parents moved to Des Moines and the girls stayed with grandparents, but it seems like they were really close with their grandparents. I think her grandmother was still alive at that point, but either way, the Wikipedia page said that there was an auction, like an estate sale type thing, and it really broke her heart seeing her childhood home like sold off.
Just go away. Oh,
it would be.
Yeah,
really
I can relate to that. When we moved in here, it was my husband's dad's house, and so everything had to go. It was very sad. It was very sad because it was a combination of his grandma's stuff and his dad's stuff, and we were just like, just take it. So a lot of the things were gone, and it was like we didn't keep anything, and I felt bad because I was like, I don't want any of this stuff. I just wanted to go, but I didn't realize that was it hit me afterwards, and I was like, oh.
I feel like people do stuff like that a lot too. I've gotten rid of some of my own stuff, and afterward, I'm like, oh shit, I should have saved that. I wish I hadn't.
Yeah.
But
there was just so much stuff. He lived here for like 20 something years, so it was just like overflowing. I'm like, we can't keep all of this stuff, so just pick what you want to keep, and we have to get rid of the rest. So it was kind of like, it was a little bittersweet. I can relate. Yeah, for sure.
So her father did find work Again, it's saying as a clerk for the Great Northern Railway in Minnesota. So
he sounds like he's getting demoted.
he's definitely going like down the ladder because
Down the line here.
I don't know exactly what clerk is, but I feel like if he was a lawyer, it would have said so. Right.
Right.
You know that there's law clerks. My dad was a judge. He's retired now. So my dad was a judge and he had law clerks. So those are things, but
maybe that's what he was. Maybe he just pulled all
but
the case information and everything.
it could be. So
Probably a better gig anyway.
Probably a better gig. The family moved to Minnesota and Amelia was going into high school as a junior. However, Amy Earhart, forgot her name. I was gonna say Amy Adams, and that's the actress. I was like, that's wrong. Amy Earhart was kind of fucking over it by that point. Like they were moving a lot. I didn't include all the moves, but they were moving a bunch. And Edwin was going through another period of job uncertainty, and she was like, "Nah, I'm done." So she left him and moved the girls to Chicago, and they stayed with friends. I'm not sure how long that situation lasted, but once they got to Chicago, Amelia raised some eyebrows because she wanted to pick the school with the best science program. So she actually went and she toured a bunch of schools, and her criteria was finding the school with the best science program. And the high school that was closest to her had a chemistry lab that Amelia described as just like a kitchen sink. So it did not make her list, needless to say. Eventually she enrolled at Hyde Park High School, but she seems like she was pretty lonely. There's a yearbook caption for that year, and it says AE, the girl in brown who walks alone. So,
oh no.
I know she seems really lonely and, kind of sad. I can remember going to like when I was in high school, someone should have told me that this was anxiety, because now I'm like, fuck, I was anxious. That's the problem. But I can remember like being stressed the first day of school, not about like scheduling or anything, but about lunchtime. I wanted someone to sit with at lunchtime. So I would be stressed all morning until the class right before lunch period. And then I was like, who do I know in this class? Who am I going to sit with during lunch so I'm not alone?
You know what my anxiety was? Finding the bathrooms. I would go to school early and find the bathrooms. And you know what's funny is I tell the kids the same thing. We're going to go and we're going to find where the bathrooms are. We're going to find your class, and then we're going to find the bathrooms, and then we're going to find the other stuff. I was like, I am not going to pee my pants in front of everybody. And no.
You remember getting your period in high school and having to like book it to the bathroom between classes?
Like, oh
gosh. That was
and everybody knew because you're like, quick, 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 quick.
Yep. That sounded like
Aaron's got wings.
My high school was enormous. So like some of the class periods, there's like only enough time between class periods to like power walk through the hallways. Gotta stop and change your pad. No.
Yeah.
So Amelia graduated high school in 1916. She started college, but she didn't finish. But she was always drawn to male-dominated careers. She kept a scrapbook of women who were excelling in male fields. I mean, I don't know exactly, but so that's something that was always important to her. Then in 1917, Amelia went to visit her sister in Toronto. And I'm looking at this, and Grace was 2 years younger than Amelia. So what was she doing in Toronto? If Amelia graduated in high school in 1916, and in 1917, she's going to visit her sister, like, what? Why isn't she in high school? What happened here?
She meet a boy?
I have no idea. It doesn't explain. And anyways, World War I was going on, and Amelia saw the wounded soldiers coming home, and they left a really deep mark on her. I think she saw, I mean, I guess it sounds cliche to say the horrors of war, but that's kind of it. That's what she saw. She saw wounded soldiers coming home. I listened to a clip of her describing it, and she was saying, it's like men without arms and legs, like really hurt people. and in real life, that's not even like movies. Because, you know, we've all watched war movies, or I mean, maybe not everyone, but, you know,
Yeah.
I've watched plenty of movies. So anyways, she got training as a nurse's aide from the Red Cross.
Oh, cool.
And she started working as a nurse's aide to help out. And she ended up staying in Toronto for a while. And then in 1918, there was an airfield there. The Royal Flying Corps trained at a local airfield. So she might have had some exposure to like watching the pilots and stuff then when she wasn't doing her nursing duties. So in 1918, the Spanish flu hit Toronto pretty hard. It had already been going on for a while, but I think that's when it really hit there. You know, kind of like COVID. The COVID spread where we were like watching it spread other places. Of course, I'm in Florida, so we've been a hot spot since like day one. I gotta stop hating on Florida. It's
But
fun
it's
though.
true. I mean,
It's
they're highly populated areas. I mean, they're like
Heavily
destination
populated
spots. So
areas.
everything's gonna get, yeah.
And there's a lot of anti-maskers here. No offense if you're an anti-masker. Okay. If you're listening to this, don't come for me. I live with you. Cut it out. So Amelia was still doing her nursing duties, but she actually became a patient herself. And she was hospitalized for about 2 months. She got a pretty severe case of pneumonia. And the Spanish flu, I remember reading a lot about it being compared to COVID when it first started. So I think just like COVID, there's like the initial period of being sick, and then there's the secondary pneumonia infection, and that's where the problem is. So she was in a hospital for about 2 months. I already said that. She had pneumonia and some pretty severe sinus issues that lasted like the rest of her life, actually.
Oh, wow.
She went through, okay, I don't have it right there. She had a lot of pain and pressure around one eye specifically, and a lot of mucus drainage. I mean, you know, we've all had sinus infections. Maybe not all. Actually, I said that to someone recently. They were like, I've never had a sinus infection. I was like, sorry, who are you? Like, what?
I have not had a sinus infection. I've had sinus stuff, but never an infection.
I didn't get bad until I moved here. And then I was getting sick, like sicker than I've been like forever. I don't get sick all that often. And finally, the doctor at urgent care was like, hey, you're super allergic to Florida. You're going to have to take allergy medicine like daily and nasal spray. Like for real, I can feel like my sinuses will like freaking hurt. Florida. That's why I hate Florida so much.
Florida.
I'm just kidding.
You Florida.
Kidding. I just like Texas. When she was in the hospital, she went through, I don't know how many surgeries, but that she had some painful minor operations to wash out her sinus cavities. And unfortunately, they were not at all successful. So sounds like it was a kind of a bitch to go through, and it didn't really help.
They were like pressure washing her sinus cavities.
Right. And all of the sinus pressure plus the procedures gave Amelia some really intense headaches. Like,
I bet.
She had chronic sinusitis pretty much for the rest of her life. It was an ongoing issue. And sometimes she had to wear a bandage over a nasal tube for drainage. And I tried to find a picture of this. I Googled all sorts of things. I tried to find, because I swear I remember seeing a picture of Amelia with like a face bandage, like on her cheek. And I was like, I remember looking at it and being like, why does she have a Band-Aid on her face? And I read this and I was like, the picture. But when I went to look, I spent a ridiculous amount of time looking for this. I could not find a single picture of her with a face bandage. So now I'm like, did I like pull this memory out of a hat? Like, did I just imagine this whole thing? Wow. I can picture it in my head still, but I couldn't find a picture. So is that a real picture? Is it not real? I don't really know. When she was recovering from Spanish flu or the secondary pneumonia, whatever you want to say, it took her about a full year to recover. Plus, remember, she had all the sinus surgeries and stuff. So it was a pretty long recovery. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but there are some people who have taken really long time to recover from COVID. It just like drags out and drags out. But eventually she moved to New York and she enrolled at Columbia University as a pre-med student, which is interesting because remember, she wanted the high school with the best science program.
Good for her.
Super good for her. I feel like she's one of those people that was just like born to do something brilliant.
Yeah, so for sure.
If she had gone through medical school, I can guarantee you that we would be reading about Amelia Earhart in medical history books. Like she would have revolutionized American medicine or something like that. And then her path just took her a different way. I think there are just people like that. You can point to Elon Musk as a modern day one. Like there are some people who are just here to change the course of history. And I feel like Amelia Earhart was one of them.
Absolutely. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
It is really interesting.
But also leads into many theories of mine now. Okay, go on.
All right. I'm ready
Eyebrow
for
wiggle.
I text Sarah all the time and I say, insert eyebrow wiggle here.
I love those. It always makes me think of that stupid show. Oh my God. It just totally flew out of my head. Big Mouth. Where she's like, wiggle, eyebrow wiggle. She always says it out loud.
Eyebrow wiggle.
Yeah, she's like, so stupid. Go on.
So around this time, I don't know if this is before she moved to New York or after, but just same general time frame. Amelia and one of her friends visited an airfair in Toronto. And there was a flying air show going on by some of the World War I pilots, a World War I flying ace, which sounds very dashing.
Very sexy.
I'm imagining like the leather jacket with like the white
bomber jacket and the thing, and you're like, hey,
the goggles,
standing in the plane.
Hey,
the wind blows.
Hey, want to catch my scarf?
Major panty dropping happening.
Except the pilot kind of made a dick move because like Amelia and her friend were standing like out in the middle of a field watching this, and apparently the pilot spotted them. And I don't know what went on in his mind, but for whatever reason, he decided to like dive at them.
Oh, he buzzed them.
He was like, it's going to be funny. Let's watch these girls run. Except guess what? Amelia didn't fucking run. She stood her and just like stared him down and was like, yeah, bring your plane at me. Bring it. She didn't move.
We used to do that in the helicopters when I lived in Havasu. We would do that to the people on the lake. Scare the shit out of him. We'd buzz them. Yeah. Fuckers.
So Amelia I'm going to quote Amelia about the experience. She went on to say, I did not understand it at the time, but I believe that little red airplane said something to me as it swished by. And then in 1920, she was in California. And if I remember correctly, she was with her dad. I don't know what they were doing in California. And Amelia took her first airplane ride with another World War I pilot named Hawks. And that was kind of it for her. She was like, yep, this is it for me. This is my thing. I'm going to fly. Actually, it made me think of when I first started reading tarot, where it just like clicked. And I was like, yep, this is for me. Yes, this is what I meant to do. what are we going to do with it? I don't know, but this is it. And Amelia said about that flight, by the time I had got 200 or 300 feet off the ground, I knew I had to fly. It was a 10-minute flight, and at the time it cost $10. I don't know what that is in today's money. Probably more. Sounds like a lot for 10 minutes. It's $1 a minute. And back then that would have been kind of a chunk of change.
$75, $100.
1920. Yeah, that would have been a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So
worth every penny.
Or what? Say that again. Sorry.
I said worth every penny.
Worth every penny. So after that flight, she was determined to learn how to fly. And she worked hard for it. She hustled. She worked a bunch of different jobs. She was a photographer, a truck driver, a stenographer, and she did the stenography for a local telephone company. And she managed to save up most of the $1,000 herself. Her mom did chip in a bit, and it said that her mom was a bit reluctant to help because she thought it was a waste of money. You know, but $1,000 back then, like, I'm not gonna lie, if something costs $1,000 now, I'm like, fuck that. No, that's a lot of money. I don't want to spend $1,000.
Yeah.
So back then, that would have seemed like a ton, but she was really driven.
Was that for her license?
That was just for the flying lessons. So yeah, I mean,
okay.
Eventually, but so she got her first flying lesson January 3rd, 1921. And her teacher, she specifically wanted a female pilot. So she went to Nita Snook, Nita, Neta, Nita Snook. And just to get to the airfield, Amelia had to take a bus to the end of the line and then walk 4 miles. So in January, where was she then? Ooh. I don't know where she was, but January would be cold no matter where she is. Maybe not.
Maybe she was still in Canada.
No,
her license it looked French, so like French Canadian.
Okay, so maybe she went back. It doesn't really say
I don't know,
where. You could Google while I'm talking if you want, and then pop back in. I didn't even think to look where she got it. All I thought about was how cold it would be. I don't want to walk 4 miles in the cold. I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
I'm a Southern lady. We don't do the cold.
Yeah. No.
So it was a good thing that she was so dedicated, though, because conditions, it doesn't really go into what the conditions are, but it said that conditions were kind of intense. I was kind of picturing like, not like military training, but like sleeping on a cot, what have you. So she bought a leather jacket. Like, I'm picturing a bomber jacket because we already have that in our minds from the World War I flying aces. Yes. But she bought a leather jacket, and it said that she didn't want the other aviators to judge her. I guess because it looked new. I don't know what even matter, but she slept in the jacket for 3 nights so that it would look more worn. Again, I don't know why it would matter, because now people are like, I'm going to keep this thing fresh. But I think it was important to her that she fit in.
Yeah.
And during her training, that's when she also started cutting her hair short, because that's what all the other female flyers were doing. And they probably did it because they were in a field full of men and trying to fit in. I've had pixie cuts plenty of times myself, but
I was just thinking like maneuvers. Like if you were doing maneuvers, like acrobatic airplanes, I tied my hair back
or like put a cap on. But either then, it does seem like short hair just would be easier. I kind of prefer short hair anyways. My hair is always up when it's longer. It's not even that long now. It's like not even shoulder length really, because at the start of COVID haircut, and I cut my hair real short, and now it's grown back. Yeah, I do that. Apparently that's a trauma response. who would have known that my thing, I did it all through high school. I would just like get really stressed. Like I'd come home and be like, I don't even know what I was stressed about, but like probably just the buildup of energy or whatever. And I would just give myself haircuts.
My
Now
daughter did that.
I'm like, do I even like short hair, or is it just a fucking trauma response where I'm like, I'm stressed as fuck, I need to cut my hair?
Yeah, she does
Wow.
weird shit like that every year. Every year she starts school, she does something fucking bizarre. And a couple of years ago, it was 2 days before school, and she didn't want to brush her hair, she said. And so she kind of had, well, she's got wavy, kind of curly hair. And she took it and cut a fucking chunk out of it, like huge, right on top. And so she had like this alfalfa. And she's like, whatever, I don't care. But she does things like that too. Like she was really stressed out, and then she comes out with like half her fucking hair missing. And then she shows it to me. This is what's funny. She's like, Mom, I cut my doll's hair and now I feel bad about it. And I'm looking at it. And I'm like, that is not your doll's hair. That is your hair. She's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it fucking is. I can tell.
I didn't even tell my mom. I was just like, oh, I cut my hair. And people were just like used to it. Again, why didn't anybody talk to me about mental health? Come on. I clearly was a fucking mess. Like cutting my hair as a coping mechanism. Yeah. But anyways, I don't know how to have hair because I'm always cutting my hair anytime I get stressed.
I was right then. I was right because I'm like, why does she keep doing that? I go, is it because I think it's because she's stressed out? She does weird fucking shit. I was right.
Yes. Yeah. And you know where I learned that? Fucking TikTok. I watched a video and I was like, shut the fuck up. What? This is a trauma response? I've been doing this my entire life. And I only now, this was like legitimately like a couple of months ago, like maybe a little bit longer than that because it was before I started sending you videos all the time. But I was like, are you kidding me? TikTok just told me what's wrong with my brain. Like,
Thank you for that free session.
Yeah, I had already put it together that I cut my hair when I'm stressed. It was after the COVID haircut because I was like, I cannot handle this. This is too stressful. What is happening? And I cut all my hair off and I was like, fuck, I don't like it. I was like, why did I do that? And then I was like, come to think of it, I do remember giving myself haircuts whenever I was having a bad day. Cut that shit. No. And so now I do want to cut my hair now. But now I'm like, do I actually want to cut my hair or am I stressed? I don't know. I should go to therapy.
You show up with bangs. I'm going to be like, I knew it. Why did you tell me? What's the matter with you?
I knew it. I'm going to send you a picture. This is the longest sidebar about my weird haircut. But one time on purpose, not because I was stressed, I cut, oh my gosh, that just scared the crap out of me. One of my Oracle card decks just like slipped off and it was not placed precariously. It just like slid down all of a sudden. Ooh. Anyways, weird shit's
been happening. Bring it back around. Come on.
Yeah. Come on. It's my guy. Like, get it together. What are you doing talking about your hair?
Stop it. Stop playing.
Anyways, I'm going to finish this story. I cut, it was like straight across bangs and a really cute bob, and it was friggin' adorable. And every time I see a picture of myself with that haircut, I'm like, I look cute. I could do that until the bangs get too long and then they look ridiculous. So anyways, I have to find my spot again now.
Whoever is licking needs to stop.
That would be one of her dogs, not her children. Okay, back on track. Oh yeah. I wrote about her cutting her hair, and then I mentioned that I wanted to be Amelia Earhart for Halloween for years because I'm always cutting my hair short. I think that's what started the tangent about me cutting my hair. But I still haven't been Amelia for Halloween. One of these years, not this year, because I'm going to be Han Solo and Gunnar is going to be Chewbacca. I'm always annoyed with my kids for deciding months in advance what they're going to be for Halloween. And I'm set.
Those are legit questions.
Listen, yeah, but they change their minds like every 5 seconds. It's so annoying. Every day they're like, guess what I'm going to be for Halloween. And I'm like, don't. Or they'll like Google costumes and show them to me. And I'm like, guys, I know you too well. You change your mind every 5 seconds. Not me. I'm going to be stubborn about this.
I love it.
So, as she's going to school, she buys herself her first airplane. It's a secondhand Kinnear, Kinner, Airster. Doesn't matter. And she named it it was a yellow airplane, and she named it the Canary. And so on October 22nd, 1922, Amelia flew that little plane up to 14,000 feet, setting a world record for female pilots. And she didn't even have her license yet.
Nice. Not a girl.
And sorry, I kind of gave me like Top Gun vibes. You know, like I wonder if she flew that high and then she came down and they were like, Amelia, what are you doing? Don't do such dangerous things. Or if they were like, yeah, get
it. Oh, sorry.
Distracted from my coughing. So
way to the
danger zone. So on May 15th, 1923, she officially became the 16th woman in the United States to be issued a pilot's license. The 16th!
Woo! That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Only 16 women? Jeez.
16 women, and she managed to find a female flight instructor with that few. I mean, I guess
she was determined. She knew what she wanted.
She was determined, which is impressive. Right? I'll take a drink.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Good for her.
All right. Good for her. So we're now up to, I guess we're going back in time because she got her license in 1923, but early on in 1920, the inheritance that she got from her grandparents kind of dried up. There wasn't much left, and she ended up selling her plane at some point, and she bought a 2-passenger vehicle instead, also yellow. So she must have liked the color yellow, and she named it the Yellow Peril. And I just enjoy the names that she's giving her vehicles or cars.
Yeah, it's cute.
She also had another round of sinus issues and went through another surgery on her sinuses, which was again unsuccessful. And I still just wonder, like, what kind of surgery was it? Because there's no scars on her face. What happened in these? I wonder
if they were like putting tubes in her ears.
It could be. I've had tubes
drain,
and I've had my adenoids removed when I was little.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do that because there's no scars on my face. They definitely didn't cut my face open. Do they? I don't know how that works.
I don't know. I'm not an ENT.
Me neither, but I've been to enough of them. I can remember being and having like feeling something in my ear and like holding my hand out and this like just chunk of wax and one of the ear tubes just like fell out in my hand. And I was like, ugh, is that supposed to happen? It was red. Is this an imagined? I don't know, but like I can clearly remember holding it in my hand and being like, gross. My mom was probably annoyed because of how many times
did you pull that out?
Things, yeah. Excuse me, ma'am.
That needs to stay in your ear hole.
Yeah, paid enough freaking money for that. Shove it back in there. She didn't say that.
Put it back.
Put it back.
Stop touching things.
So Amelia definitely knew that flying was it for her. But as you know, and I know, sometimes knowing what your thing is doesn't mean that you know how to get your shit together. And it seems like she went through a bit of this because she got her pilot's license and she was like, flying is my thing. How am I going to make money at it? Tarot is my thing. I still don't make money at it. I know that I could open up for readings. Nobody say that to me. I'm the problem here. But, so I said she hustled before, but like legitimately, she was just determined to make enough money that she could live out her flying dreams. So she had a photography business and a handful of other projects that she was setting up. And it seemed like she was stashing money aside to buy other planes. Like she worked hard to get to where she wanted to go.
So many things. So
so
many
many-
things are so similar with her and I. And now I understand.
I was gonna say something with the photography, but then I was like, I don't know, maybe.
Oh
But
my gosh.
so then
My
I
dad used to take me to air shows
really
all the time. Yeah. I wanted to fly.
what?
Yeah,
You know, the medical examiner stuff. I didn't know you wanted to fly.
I had so many dreams. I have a dream.
Same. All the
Oh, I
dreams.
did. Finish your story and then we'll talk about myself.
Oh my gosh. I just got a spam text. It said, "Hey baby, join here."
Well, you have to now.
I don't want these spam texts. Spam calls are bad enough. Spam texts, please. So in 1924, her parents finally called it quits. Amy had had enough. They filed for divorce. Honestly, he seemed like he could not get it together. He seems like he sucks. And
Too bad.
during that time, Amelia took her mother on a cross-country road trip in her little 2-passenger yellow vehicle, the Yellow Peril. And eventually they went to Boston, and Amelia had another sinus surgery. This one was a little bit more successful, but she had some recovery period, and then she did go back to school at Columbia University, but she had to quit because she couldn't afford the tuition at that point. And it seems like by that point, that's when the funds from her grandparents' inheritance really had dried up. So her mom couldn't help her. But also, you know what? Fuck tuition. College is so expensive. And for what? For what? Who can even get a job these days?
I know.
I hope it changes before our kids go to college.
I'm not holding my breath.
I don't hold my breath either. But like, whoever's listening, America needs major education reform, and that includes universities because it's outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
Student loans the rest of our lives. Not me, because I didn't go to college.
Well, I did. And
Yeah.
I was very much in debt for that. And for what? Because I don't use any of it.
And for what? That's why I didn't go to college, because I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Turns out there's not a college degree for reading tarot and talking to ghosts. There would be a lot more interesting.
Right? Yeah.
So back to Amelia. She moved to Massachusetts, and she was working as a teacher and then a social worker. But she still was keeping up for her love for aviation. I think, again, the main issue was how to make it a career, how to make money doing it. Actually, I kind of find it comforting that someone like her had a bit of a hard time finding her exact path, because sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And if Amelia Earhart had a hard time getting off the ground,
Unintended. You're so funny.
then it's okay for us to have a hard time too.
Exactly. But she did what she needed to do to get there, even if she didn't like it.
Exactly.
Cool.
Amelia became a member of the American Aeronautical Society, and she was eventually elected vice president of the Boston chapter. I don't know how often she was flying, but Wikipedia says she flew out of Denison Airport, and at some point helped to finance this airport by investing a pretty big chunk of money. So it seems like she was working really hard and saving the money. Just burped. Again, I don't know why I feel the need to announce it, but and she also started working as a sales representative for, again, I don't know how to say this, Kinnear, Kinnear, Kinner. Aircraft, and that was who made her first airplane. And eventually she started writing newspaper articles promoting flying and aviation in general. Her columns got her a lot of attention, and she started planning an all-female aviation organization. I don't go a ton into this, but Amelia Earhart really did a lot to promote women in aviation and just women in general. She worked really, really, really hard helping other women get places, or just by showing them, hey, we can
Can be
like it
done.
too. Exactly. So 1927, Charles Lindbergh. I wonder if that's my husband's truck. I think it's a motorcycle. Charles Lindbergh did a solo flight across the Atlantic. This doesn't have anything to do with her. Do you want to talk about the Lindbergh baby disappearance at any point? It's kind of Charles Lindbergh, the baby, and nobody.
I know nothing about that one, so that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Okay, it involves a baby. So that'll be kind of sad, but it is a mystery. And I love a good mystery. And it's an old one. So I feel like that still fits in. Again, nothing haunted there. But not everything has to be haunted. It's fine. Anyways, so after Charles Lindbergh flew across the Atlantic, there was another female pilot named Amy Guest. Ooh, I don't know if it is Amy Guest, but Guest is what I have written. I'm not sure if that was an autocorrect moment. And she was interested in being the first woman to fly across the Atlantic, but eventually she decided that it was too scary and that they should find another girl. She actually said they should, quote, find another girl with the right image. And I don't know why, but that just rubbed me the wrong way. What did she mean by the right image?
Yeah.
Amelia did seem like not rough.
She was the perfect fit. She had it.
So they naturally went to Amelia, who obviously was like, fuck yeah, I do. She didn't say
Sign me up. Maybe she did.
Up. So what ended up happening there is that she was, I guess at that point, because I think it was mostly boat travel. Because when I was listening to it, I was like, I don't get what the big deal is here. Amelia didn't fly that plane. She was just a passenger. There was 2 male flights. And I think she enjoyed the experience, but it also really rubbed her the wrong way because she is quoted as saying, so the pilot was Wilmer Stoltz, and Lewis Gordon was the co-pilot and the mechanic on the flight. So Amelia kind of was just like sitting in the plane. So I guess that was setting a record in itself, just having a woman in a plane flying across the Atlantic. Okay. But afterwards, Amelia said, Stoltz did all the flying, had to. I was just baggage, like a sack of potatoes. And then she said, maybe someday I'll try it alone. So regardless of how Amelia felt about it, and it seems to me like she wasn't necessarily thrilled to just be like along for the ride, she wanted to do it herself. But when they landed in England, people were thrilled. They were so excited. They greeted them with, okay, no, I don't know what happened in England. It was a big deal. When they came back to the United States, they were greeted with a parade in Manhattan, and they had a reception at the White House.
Oh, that's cool.
It is pretty cool. She wrote a book about the experience and went on several book tours. Again, she was doing a lot to promote aviation and females in aviation specifically. And that eventually led to her having a column in Cosmopolitan magazine.
Wow, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. So despite how excited people were for her, she still really wanted to do that herself. She wanted to physically fly the plane across the ocean. It wasn't enough for her to just ride in the passenger. She wanted to be in charge. So she started working on her first long solo flights. So in 1928, Amelia became the first woman to fly solo across the American continent, North American continent, and back. Her piloting skills and professional attitude were kind of making the waves for her. Again, she worked really, really hard, and she had more experienced pilots talking about what a great flyer she was. She really did just so much for aviation in general. And there's General Lee Wade flew with Amelia in 1929, and he said about that flight, she was a born flyer with a delicate touch on the stick.
Oh.
You had the exact same reaction I did. That's what he said.
My mind goes straight to the gutter.
Mine too.
How could you not? She had a delicate touch on the stick. Did she now?
How would you know, sir?
Excuse me, sir.
Excuse me. Can you think of no other way to phrase that? He was a great flyer. So Amelia also was flying competitively. And when I say she set record after record after record, I mean it. I didn't go into all of this because I felt like her background was just too important. But she's setting a ton of records. She is really blazing a trail for women, not like showing the world that, you know, women can do this too. It's not just handsome men in bomber jackets that could be pilots. You know, she was an advocate and she worked really, really hard promoting women in aviation. Amelia had been engaged to a man named Samuel Chapman, and he was a chemical engineer from Boston, but she broke off that engagement in 1928. So around the same time that she flew that general around. And Amelia started hanging around with publisher George P. Putnam. He was known as GP, and that's what I'm going to call him because I like that. GP got divorced in 1929, and he had already known Amelia by this time. He was in publishing, and he did a lot for Amelia's career. I think that he was her publisher for at least one book. He helped a lot to promote her. So they had already known each other. And once he was divorced, he really had his sights set on Amelia. And he proposed to her 6 times before she finally agreed to marry him. 6 times. 6 times. I wish that someone wanted me that bad to keep proposing 6 times. Because I'll tell you right now, my husband loves me. If I said no when he proposed to me, we would have broken up. There would have been no,
right?
There would have been no 6 times. Like, excuse me, I would like that level of dedication, please. Propose to me 6 times. On the 6th time, I will say yes. Interesting. So, anyways, she did say yes.
Different times.
Different times. They got married February 7th, 1931 at GP's mother's house. And Amelia referred to their marriage as a partnership with dual control. So she was not going to have
She wasn't going to be barefoot and haunted.
No.
Barefoot and pregnant was she not going to be?
No, she was not. On the day of their wedding, she wrote him a letter and had it delivered to him. And it said, quote, "I want you to understand, I shall not hold you to any medieval code of faithfulness to me, nor shall I consider myself bound to you similarly." She continued, I may have to keep some place where I can go to be by myself now and then, for I cannot guarantee to endure all the times the confinement of even an attractive cage." So basically,
hey, let's have an open relationship. I'm going to go get myself an apartment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You do you, I'll do me. I'm going to keep my apartment over here because sometimes you're annoying.
I need a she shed. I need my she pad.
Yeah. I want a she. Let me tell you, if I could have a she shed just full of my painting supplies, I haven't painted in forever, but you know, I do paint, tarot decks, and a place to podcast, or maybe even a couch. So when I want to go
to the bathroom by myself.
Oh my gosh.
What an idea.
That. I could sit on the couch and watch a show without my kids telling me facts non-stop.
You guys, when I had my photography studio, that's what I would do. I would drop them off at school. I'd go home and get dressed, and then I would spend the entire day there. Whether I had clients or not, that's where I was. I took naps because I had a bed in there because I did boudoir. So I took naps. I laid on my couch. I read books. I was like, yes, freedom.
Things.
Totally understand.
So
it was really nice of her.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
like, hey, this is what I expect. But kind of a weird thing to say on the day you're getting married. not
think she
prior.
wanted to set the ground rules so that he understood that just because she's like, listen, I'm going to say I do to you, but that doesn't change things. I'm going to do me, you do you. You know,
Maybe before the wedding, she could have just like,
I wonder if there's something else that happened. Like, I'm sure she does not seem like a woman to beat around the bush and being
No.
like, well, she's not like me, people pleaser. She's like, no, sir. So I wonder if something happened and she was like, listen, I'm still gonna marry you, but you better listen the fuck up.
He asked her if she burnt the bacon, and she's like, listen,
Yeah.
motherfucker.
The fire department came to her apartment and was like, did you burn the bacon? Yeah, I did, with all of my witchy shit. You want to come in here? It smells like burnt frankincense. Come on in. I'll show you around my tarot decks. You want to see what I do for fun? That's Amelia.
That's awesome. I love that.
But she did have pretty liberal views on marriage, especially for the time. I'm not gonna lie, I would not be into an open marriage. If my husband was like, hey, we should see other people, I'd say, hey, I'd like to be single then. I'm not about to, I don't share. So,
Yeah, no.
but you know what? I am seeing a lot of people that it works for them. And I say more power to you, because it takes a lot of security within yourself and within your partner to feel okay with something like that. But
Yeah.
you know, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So he did do a lot for her career. He really helped promote her a lot. He arranged all of her speaking tours, and apparently she had her own luggage and clothing line. And he
Really?
yeah, I saw that. I watched a documentary. I don't remember what it's called right now. It was on Amazon. It was kind of boring. But
Sorry,
she
my
talked.
husband's talking to my daughter in the background. If you hear man and
Okay.
doors, I think she wants to go in the pool. So they're like talking about it. Sorry. Not disembodied voices. It is my actual husband.
He did do a lot for her and her career. I feel a little bit bad that I didn't include him more, but it's not about you, GP. It's about Amelia. Okay. So again, she's still setting record after record. She was the first woman to fly across North America, and she was the first woman to actually physically fly alone across the Atlantic. She had set her
Wow.
that. And
That's scary though.
oh my gosh, it was actually pretty scary. When she set it up, she had a male, I don't think that he was a co-pilot. I don't remember what exactly he did, what he was supposed, I don't remember what his title was, and I didn't write his name down. So sorry about that. But he was a distraction for her. He went and was working on another one of her planes while she took off on her own. He distracted the press for her so she could take off. So she went.
I was like, why? Was he hot?
Atlantic, probably. I mean,
Like, really?
it's like the astronauts of the 1960s. I feel like it was a requirement that you had to be good looking to be a pilot.
Right.
But back then you had to have like perfect eyesight too. So I could not be a pilot because I cannot see from a distance. But so on the flight, there was a gas leak and the wings froze. And there was like a crack in that front part. You know, there's like the thing. What's that called? The what?
Not the propeller?
Yeah, the propeller. Thank you. That little nose bit that holds the propeller on. There was a crack in there. And at one point, flames like spewed out while she's flying alone across the Atlantic. So she did fix all of that. So good thing she had some mechanical know-how.
Mm-hmm.
And when she landed in a field in Derry, Ireland. And a farmer asked her if she had flown far. And she said, from America. Like, it seems like that was something that she did for her because she took steps to evade the press. And if it had been like a big setup thing, there would have been press waiting there for her. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
So after that, there's more, but this is around the time when I started getting stressed about how much information I was putting in. So there's stuff in between. But she set her sights on being the first woman to fly across the globe at that point. She had one failed attempt. I can't remember what went wrong there. I think that her plane had some mechanical issues. So her plane was being repaired, and then they were setting the groundwork to try again. So on June 1st, 1937, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan, who was her navigator, set out from Oakland, California in Amelia's twin-engine Lockheed Electra plane. And they would have been flying nonstop for like a month. It said a little less than a month later, they reached New Guinea, having flown 22,000 miles. And I didn't realize at this point that they had flown most of the globe. Like they were on their last leg when the plane goes down. They only had 7,000 miles left to go before they made it back to California. I must have known that, but like looking at the maps and then watching the documentaries, I was like, what? She was so
close.
She was right there. Yep. She was right there. After leaving New Guinea, they had another 2,500 miles before they reached their next stop. They were planning on refueling at Howland Island, which is a tiny island in the Pacific Ocean, and they needed to stop there to refuel. They should have had more than enough fuel to get there, but this is where stuff goes wrong. There was a man named Harry Balfour, who was a radio operator in New Guinea, and they made plans. He planned with Amelia to radio each other every hour. And when Amelia took off, Harry Balfour realized that the headwinds were stronger than anticipated. And he had tried several times to radio Amelia to let her know this information, but it doesn't seem like it got through to her. And high headwinds can affect several things, including the speed of the plane. Oh, I lost my spot. Sorry. Including the speed of the plane and how much gas they used, which makes a lot of sense because they loaded up on gas, so they should have had more than enough to make it to Howland Island to refuel. And one of the things that was reported, I think it happened, it's a little bit unclear, but Amelia reported flying up to 10,000 feet, which would have eaten up a lot of extra fuel in addition to everything else that was going on. Nobody's really sure why she went that high. But with the high headwinds, there's theories that she could have been trying to get over mountain ranges or that she was trying to get above the clouds.
Above the wind. Yeah, above the clouds.
Well, I'm sure above the clouds. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's wind above the clouds. I'm sure maybe not as much as it could be. So the transmissions that she was sending were a bit delayed, but everything seemed mostly okay up to that point. Obviously, it wasn't exactly the way it should have been.
Maybe she was hitting turbulence with the wind.
She could have been hitting turbulence. It just seems like things were just not right on that leg. It seems like anything that could have gone wrong did go wrong, mostly. So there was a boat set up near Howland Island. I forgot to write down the name of the boat, but it had a name. And the purpose of that boat was to have radio contact with her. And Amelia and Fred had to have gotten close because I think that the plane did show up on the radar, but also with how clear her radio frequencies were coming through. One of the radio operators went outside to look for her because they knew how close she was. Amelia radioed to the boat, "We must be on you, but cannot see you. Gas is running low." Her last known transmission was, we are on line 157, 337. We will repeat message. We will repeat this on 6,210 kilocycles. Wait. She may have also said, "We are running north and south." And can I just say, I cannot think of a scenario scarier than flying and knowing you have this tiny island to land on and that you're running out of gas over an ocean.
Over an ocean.
When my car is running low on gas, like, you know, and it's not even like the light will come on and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get to a gas station immediately. Like I have more than enough gas to make it there, but
Right?
like,
Just the idea of having
oh my gosh,
where
the idea of knowing that you're running out of gas flying over an ocean scares me way too much. Hang on, I gotta take a drink. Just spilled my drink. Thank God you can't see that. It's too low. Anyways, so needless to say, they didn't make it to Howland Island. Despite efforts to locate the plane, there was no sign of Amelia or Fred anywhere. And pretty soon after her last transmission, that boat that was set up to radio with her knew that something must have gone wrong, and they went out looking for her. And there was other boats in the area, so like people were looking for them like
immediately.
Pretty quickly. They were looking for her. Despite efforts to locate the plane, and this was one of the most extensive and expensive search and rescue operations done at the time. They spent a lot of time and a lot of money looking for them. Amelia, and I'm assuming Fred, I didn't say, were officially declared dead on January 5th, 1939. And
on what day?
January 5th, 1939. January 5. And it makes me kind of sad thinking about her sister and her mother was still alive at that point. They never knowing what happened to her. But also I feel really bad for GP because he did a lot to alert. What was that? That's not even a word. He did a lot to arrange search parties for her. He funded a lot of the search parties himself. He sent out expeditions specifically to look for her. And her mother had a part in that too. She would go to GP, Amelia's husband, and they were like looking at maps and trying to figure out where she could be and sending planes and boats to search for her.
Yeah.
And that makes me really, really sad. So the US government has concluded that they probably ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean. And with that theory, that's how they would have died. Another more widely believed theory, this is actually the theory that I believe, is that Amelia and Fred Noonan reached an uninhabited island called Nikumaro. And there have been artifacts found on that island that would back this theory up.
Freckle cream.
Yep, freckle cream. The freckle cream makeup, like little canisters of makeup and freckle cream that were specific to the time period and that Amelia herself was known to use. And I'm sorry, what would those products be doing there if it wasn't Amelia Earhart? You know what I mean? Like, who the fuck found them? And we're like, oh, it's hearsay. It's not Amelia Earhart. Like,
yeah, an uninhabited island just happened to produce makeup and freckle cream out of the banana tree.
Yep. And
totally.
One of the things that really frustrates me about that is that I can't remember if it was a plane. There was a military, I think it must have been a plane, flew over the island in a time period when she might have still been alive and saw what they thought to be, looked like a camp on an uninhabited island, and they still didn't think to stop and be like, hey, maybe Amelia and Fred are here. So in 1939, which would have been about 2 years later, there was a British officer who found the remains of a campsite on the island. They found a sextant, which is funny because remember during our Winchester Mystery House, we pulled that card. And you're like, what is this? What does this thing do?
Yeah.
It's used to find the longitude and latitude lines. It was a tool. It was a navigation tool.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense. And there were bones found. They found bones. But whatever scientist, and I'm using air quotes because he does not deserve the title of scientist, whatever anthropologist looked at these bones, identified them as male because Amelia was known to be tall. She was about 5'7" or 5'8", and that's pretty tall for a woman at the time. Just burped again, sorry. So he marked those bones as a male, and the bones got lost. They might have even been destroyed. The measurements were written down, luckily. I'll get into that later. But I remember watching a documentary about this on Discovery Channel like years ago, and I looked for it. I can't remember what it was called though, so I couldn't find it. But along with this theory, and I think it was in this documentary, the theory was that Fred might have been more injured in the crash than Amelia, because Amelia was sitting up front piloting, and she had a system with Fred where he was like when he was sending her coordinates, it was like on a line or something. So he was like in the back of the plane, and he'd send them up to the front, so they weren't sitting side by side. Anyways, so the theory was that Amelia might have survived longer than Fred. But back to the bones. We don't have the bones anymore, but what we do have was the written records, and it does match what we know about Amelia. She was 5'7" or 5'8", and the bones matched her description. And there wasn't anything. I don't know if he was like looking at the pelvis. I think he was just going off of the height, which again is ridiculous because she was tall. She was tall. Yeah. I'm 5'6", so she would have been taller than me. I mean, I'm not short.
And you can see her. She's long, like lean.
Long. She does have a more, masculine frame.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? She wasn't really super
curvaceous.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that only some of the bones might have been found, it wasn't a complete skeleton, it was a partial bones, is the coconut crabs. And let me tell you, those things are huge. They get up to 3 feet long, 3-foot crab. They can break open coconuts with their pinchers. That's why they're called coconut crabs. So the theory is that after Amelia died, the crabs ate her and, chopped off bits of her and took them into their little burrows, which would be why we only have a partial skeleton instead of, the complete skeleton. Mm-hmm. Presumably, Fred Noonan would have met the same fate. Another bit of evidence that seems to back this up is that in 1937, 1939. So 1937, that was like shortly after she crashed, I think, because 2 years later in 1939. So 1937 would have been pretty close to the crash. There was a British expedition in that island, and there's a picture, and it's online. I'll send it to you. You can see the boat, and then sticking out of the water is what looks like landing gear from an airplane
wheel
out of the water. Yeah. How didn't they notice that? I'm sorry. What was happening? It just drives me. There's so many. I thought I saw something out of the corner of my eye. I didn't. There were so many chances for someone to be like, hey, that's weird. Let's check that out. Instead, they were like, brush that off. Who knows what that is? It could be anything. A campsite on a deserted island? What? If the plane did crash, where the picture is showing, Amelia would have had access to her radio for up to a week after the crash. And I guess by that point, the batteries would die or something.
Even submerged?
So it wouldn't have worked if it was completely submerged, but I think something about the tides, like there were radio transmissions heard by a woman that lined up with low tide, and low tide she would have been
Oh,
on the plane. So there's a
interesting.
named
Because the
Betty.
plane was upside down. That's why the
Mhm.
landing gear.
I don't know exactly
That's
how
how
it all,
I'm thinking of it. Like, how did the wheel?
well, I wonder if over time things shifted too,
Or it
because
just floated a little.
well, it was floated, or like if a storm
Broke
came
off.
through, or heavy
Mm,
waves, it's not
yeah,
like it was tied down with an anchor or anything. I'm not sure
right.
exactly what to think about that. I just know that it's possible that she had access to her radio for up to a week. And there were
Mm.
people who heard radio transmissions. One of them was a girl named Betty Klenek, doesn't matter. And this girl, I think she was a teenage girl, she heard a woman's voice on her radio saying, "This is Amelia Earhart, help me." And she also heard that woman's voice arguing with a male voice. She listened to it for 3 hours and took notes in a notebook. She gave it to her dad, who contacted the Coast Guard. But the Coast Guard didn't take it seriously because, and this is fair, apparently there were reports from all over the world hearing radio signals from possibly Amelia Earhart. However, I already know that they spent a ton of money on the search and rescue efforts. So why wasn't this looked into? There's so many chances. There were so many chances for someone. This is like Rose and Jack and the fucking door all over again. Move over, Rose. Someone investigate this radio signal. Come on. It just kills me. I am picturing Amelia being on that island and like seeing that plane flying overhead and being like, someone heard me, someone's coming to help, and nobody ever came. And that breaks my heart. The whole thing is scary, but thinking about her alive on that, I almost wish she did die in the water, because that would have been a quick death.
Mm-hmm.
I think she landed on the island though, because there's no how did the freckle cream get there otherwise?
Right.
The freckle cream, and I think I have this in a minute. Okay, it's right here. So, anyways, the Coast Guard didn't go and look, but in 1991, a partial rubber shoe was found with the words "Cat's Paw Rubber Company USA" on it. And it's from the same type of shoe that Amelia was wearing shortly before she disappeared. It was the wrong size. It was a size 9 shoe, which is bigger than she would have worn. But did anybody look into what size Fred Noonan might have worn?
Right.
See, I don't know. And I don't know if it was a size men or not. It just was mentioned that that shoe would have been too big for her.
Mm.
So another alternative theory is that when Amelia and Fred Noonan couldn't find Howland Island, because it did seem like they were trying to find it. I'm not sure if Fred miscalculated the navigation or what was happening, but it did seem like they could not spot Howland Island. They should have been right on top of it, but they couldn't see it. So when they couldn't find Howland Island, that they might have headed towards Japanese controlled Marshall Islands, where they were then captured. The thing about the Marshall Islands is that they probably would not have had enough gas to get there, but who really knows? So with this theory, they were supposedly held in prisoner of war camps. And there's an Army sergeant named Thomas E. Devine, and he said in July 1944 that he met a group of U.S. Marines supposedly guarding a hangar containing her airplane inside. But then it was, and this was on Saipan, which had recently been liberated, and then soldiers destroyed the plane. So like, I don't know about that. But to go with this theory, there's a picture. I'll send it to you. We could post it on Instagram later. There's a picture that some people have looked at, and it does look like it's circled. It looks like Amelia is sitting with her feet hanging off of a dock. She's turned kind of like this. And there's a man that looks like it could possibly be Fred Noonan. But that picture was supposedly from a book that was published in 1935, which was 2 years before the disappearance.
Mhm.
And along
Because it
with
looked like her boat was on, or her plane was like on a boat too.
it's so there is that picture. I also wish that had been true, except that they might have been executed under that scenario. That was part of it, that they had been held captive for a while and then they were executed. I just feel like if they were executed, then we probably would have heard about it. Or even if they were captured, because she was worldwide famous.
Yeah. They would have been
And,
like, we have ransom. We want ransom.
exactly. The whole world knew that she was, I mean, mostly the whole world knew that she was taking this flight. The islands knew that she was supposed to be going by because it was a big deal when she landed there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So going with that theory, some people have spun it off saying that Amelia and Fred could have been US spies. And they were flying over there, to do spy stuff. And that's the real reason that they were captured and they would have been interrogated and, whatever. So another spin-off from this is that they weren't actually killed, but they were held captive and released years later. And then after that, they just went on to live like, everyday lives. This theory has Amelia changing her name to Irene Craigmile Bolam, who then lived as a New Jersey housewife for the rest of her years. And there's some videos on YouTube where you can look where people have tried to the video morphing Irene just does not look like Amelia, but similar enough, but it's not Amelia. I'll just say that. But I feel like there's so many stories with celebrities. Michael Jackson faking his death to live on an island that he maybe took Princess Diana to live on too, just so they could get out of the spotlight. I've heard 1,000,001 theories of Princess Diana, not really being dead, but just being tired of the spotlight. And to that I say, do you think that woman would have abandoned her sons? No. And I don't think that any of those people, and Amelia especially, I can't see her. She worked her whole life towards aviation. Do you really think that she would have just walked away from that? Assuming, okay, so maybe she's a US spy and they say that she has to. Look at the conditions she put on her marriage with her husband.
Right.
How would she be content being a New Jersey housewife?
Somebody would have said something, had she gone on. I think she would have told her family, like,
exactly. Well, and
this was my life.
Irene Bolam herself has a well-documented life. Like, she was not Amelia Earhart. And she actually sued. There was someone who wrote a book with this theory. They wrote a whole book around the theory and she sued them. She was like, fuck you guys. I'm not Amelia Earhart. Give me $1.5 million. I don't know if she won, but I just don't think that is even, I could see maybe her making it to Marshall Islands and, maybe they were killed and the Japanese never said anything about it. But I think it's more likely that they crash landed on the deserted island or in the ocean than the Marshall Islands. And this last one I put in just because it was funny. I watched again the BuzzFeed Unsolved, this time the true crime. And it was, I thought I wrote down what season it was in. I guess I didn't. It was BuzzFeed Unsolved True Crime. I love those guys. I want to be their friends. If this ever crosses your ears, let's go ghost hunting together. Let's go ghost hunting together. Ryan, I'll make you feel safe. Shane, I don't even care. You can talk trash to the demons. I'm here for it. It's so much fun. And with that theory, this was at the credits were rolling and all that was really said was just it's potentially aliens and abducted her. And I was like, well, that has to be in. That's the only link to the podcast, to the paranormal side of this podcast that I could find. Aliens.
Solved.
It was aliens. She's living her best life
You're like,
driving alien spaceships.
tell
No,
us your secrets.
Amelia Earhart is Captain Marvel. I've solved it. That's actually kind of close.
She's
to
in
the
the future and she is
plotline.
now making spacecrafts with her advanced alien aviation knowledge.
So that's about it. But I read that in 2019, some new evidence was found that made the guy who found the Titanic, I'm sorry I didn't write his name down, think that it was possible to locate her plane. So he is on this case. I feel like if anybody could find where Amelia's plane is, it's that guy. And I'm so excited. COVID probably threw that off because I was trying to find updates and I was like, 2019, why haven't we heard anything? Oh, yeah, because the whole world got shut down.
No exploration for you.
No exploration for you. And the last thing that I have, I added it in as after the fact because I was watching when I finished writing this. I was watching a documentary on Amazon, the one that I said that was boring. But in there I learned that she was friends with Eleanor Roosevelt and they went flying together. And
Yeah.
I think that is super cool.
That is cool. I liked her. She was a sassy lady.
She was a sassy lady. So of course she'd be friends with Amelia Earhart.
Heck yeah. All right.
Let's
take a break.
And then we'll come back.
Excellent.
Okay. Okay. Hi, we're back.
Hello.
While we were on break, Tara thought long and hard about why she has such a connection to Miss Earhart, Miss Amelia.
Yeah. So, I think it was, as you were talking, I was thinking, I'm like, oh man, there's so much similarity. So I just thought I saw somebody walking behind me. Freak me out.
Like a shadow, like when you move, sometimes there's a dark shadow going in there.
Yeah, it's probably just my hair. Yeah, my dad used to take me to air shows all the time when we lived in California. Like he loved planes and all kinds of things like that. So when I was little, he would take me to these air shows. And I mean, shit, probably well up until maybe 8 or 9. Like we would go every time that they would have them. And they would always have like the old military planes, like the old World War II planes. Yeah. And I loved the B-17 bombers and the shoo shoo babies and like all of that. Like we would go to the air museums and things like that. And when I was in 9th grade, I was like, I think I want to fly. Like I want to be a pilot. I want to fly because I loved planes so much. But I had this love for the planes because of the air shows, and not so much my dad, but just the planes, like the way they smelled and the old, just everything. It was so neat. And so in 9th grade, I signed up for ROTC.
No way. Did you really?
So I was a blueberry, but I was like my mind was focused on that. Like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to, get in with them. And because they were taught by Air Force instructors and, retired, whatever. So I'm like, I have a reference and that was my focal point.
Yep.
And I had that in my mind. And then I remember, volunteering and working at the air shows. Like we had a little booth and watching all of like the Blue Angels, and oh my god, I was obsessed. I was so obsessed with flying. Even to this day, when I fly, like I'll cry. Because I wanted to fly so bad.
Really?
And yes, like it's insane. Like when we take off, like I get so excited that I like start crying, and my husband's drinking and everybody's freaking out, and I'm like it's just that like feeling of just exhilaration. And then I'm also a photographer. Well, I did, but I worked with another guy who had met somebody. Oh, it was one of our bride's father who flew I think it was a 1930 something biplane. And so he wanted some photos done. And so we went and we did a whole photo shoot of him. And by the way, I have a leather bomber jacket. So Because I was like, I have it. It's like literally like as old as I am. It's so old, but it's pristine. I'll have to sleep in it so it looks more worn in. But we went to do that and it was all like old school, and he had the jacket on and he had that old hat like she had, the old school ones.
Yeah.
It was so fucking cool. I'll have to pull those pictures because they were so neat. I was so impressed with myself. I'm like, oh, but they took us on a tour. They took us up to fly and wanted like aerial shots of us and them in the planes. Well, my partner wouldn't go. Well, his neighbor joined us because he was an aerial acrobatist. And so he had like, the little red plane. And he's like, I'm not fucking getting in that thing. So I did. And it was the coolest. They took us over the mountain range and we were doing all the things, and we'd go up really high and then he'd stall out and it would just like circle down and then we'd take off, and we were pulling like 8 or 9 G's up there. And I was just like,
you're so brave, because just thinking about that gave me so much anxiety.
I was like, oh my God. So he would be doing like barrel rolls. Oh my God. I was in my element. I'm like, okay, I probably will never fly, but this took the cake. Like all the things I thought I would never get to do, like I actually got to do them. And so I was okay with that, because I'm like, oh man, my heart, like that it made my life. It was so much fun. But there's lots of little similarities in there that I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so awesome. Like I totally could see myself being like, fuck everybody, let's cross the ocean. Let's do this. But I was thinking like, yeah, like, if I knew that I was going down, I would have been like, fuck this. I'm going to do everything I can to stay alive. And she did. I feel like she did. She just did what she could. And, but you pulled some cards.
I pulled some cards, and I did this while we were on break instead of doing them on air. I've been thinking about this a lot since we opened up our YouTube channel. I feel like my readings when I'm by myself are just better. But I'm trying to work on being more comfortable doing them on the spot, because usually when I do my readings, I'm alone. And I'm not alone. I have my kids with me, but like
you're in your zone. You're in your comfort zone.
Exactly. Nobody's watching me. So while we were on break, I asked just if Amelia had anything to say, and I'm using the Lua Lenormand deck, and it's by Divine Muses on Instagram. It's a mini Lenormand kit. Isn't it so cute?
Dude, and we'll tag all these in there. So in case you're interested, you can find them.
I'm not sure if she makes these mini decks anymore in the seance tins, but you can buy a regular size deck. I saw them on her Instagram page recently. Cute. So one of the things that I had been thinking was that Fred Noonan might have been more injured in the crash than Amelia, and that maybe he died first. So the cards that came up were man and coffin. Literally, I'll bring them closer. Can you see those as their glare?
Yeah, no, I can see them.
The man card literally means man, and coffin, is death. The Lenormand cards are more literal than tarot cards are. And the next two cards are house and heart. So to me, those are saying that Fred died before her. Sorry, my voice is going a little croaky. I think that Fred died before her, and that she spent the rest of her time thinking about her loved ones. And I do think that she would have tried hard, just like you were saying, to stay alive or to make it for them. I think she probably was injured in the crash as well. And I mean, surviving on a deserted island alone, like, how much shelter could they even have had? Of course, there's the fucking coconut crabs, and she probably would have had access to coconuts. If there's coconut crabs, there's probably coconuts. But
right,
like in terms of like shelter or fresh water, there's only so long she could have survived. And to me, that's just saying that she did the best that she could. She held on as long as she could, and she thought about her family as much as she could.
That's
So
really neat.
I do have a new fun thing. You want to see them?
Yes.
We're going to try them out.
Yes.
I wasn't going to pull cards today until I had that revelation of that it was bothering me that my personal readings are better than the ones that I do on the air or when I'm ghost hunting. It's harder to get into the same headspace.
Well, I think in your defense, I think when we're doing this, it's hard to come up with questions sometimes because it's on the fly. And so it kind of trips it up a little bit because we're like trying to conserve time, but still be, in the thing.
Exactly. Well, and yeah, that I think that does get into my mind a little bit. They're like, what question are we going to ask? That is on my mind a little bit. And the other thing too is that I always have it in my mind that I can't go as deep as I would when I'm doing the other readings because I don't want it to like drag out a single card because there's so much in one card, one card. But then the end result is when I was watching back our YouTube video, I was like, what am I even doing? But anyways, these are dowsing rods. I've seen them. I haven't used them. They're pretty similar to a pendulum. I know that I talked a lot about how I don't trust pendulums on our last episode. And then I turned around and watched and got dowsing rods. But look, you can ask it yes or no questions. So I'm just going to ask it to please show me yes. And it crosses for yes. Can you please show me no? And they go out for no.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, out is no. And I thought that these would be fun to take ghost hunting because I don't know if they're harder to influence than a pendulum, honestly.
What's sitting around you that's magnetic that could do that?
Well, and when I was like right now, I'm not asking anything and I'm not moving,
swinging,
and they're just swinging around. So let's ask some yes or no questions, and then you can see whatever you could pick up. Okay. So what do you want to ask?
I know I'm nervous now. Is Amelia with us today? No.
Oh, it takes a minute sometimes. Is Amelia Earhart present with us?
Yes.
Yeah. All the way, yes. Sometimes it takes a minute to respond. I don't know why.
Did she survive? Did Amelia survive on the island? Yes.
Yes. Did Fred Noonan die before her?
Yes.
Yes. If anyone's listening to the podcast, if you want to see this part, you can look at our YouTube. This is not as entertaining just listening to us go, yes. Interesting for us, though.
Yeah.
They're copper rods. I didn't even think to explain what they are to people who are only listening. They're copper rods, and you hold them in your hands, and they like spin around based on the answer. So
did Amelia and Fred have any contact with the Japanese once they crashed?
Nope.
Nope.
No. All the way to my shoulders.
All the way to your shoulders.
They're literally touching my shoulders.
Okay.
Just ask anything that you're curious about her. Just yes, in the form of yes or no. I think it's saying yes. Yeah, ask about me.
Ask about me. Okay. Were you in love? Was Amelia in love with Fred?
Hard yes.
Hard yes. I don't know was this love more than a friendship?
That was a good follow-up. Friend
No.
love? Well, it's not really doing anything. Hang on, give it a second. This one's trying.
I'm going to say that's a no. Did he love you more than you loved him? No.
Also non-committal.
Neutral.
Did they have an affair at any point? Did she just not?
They were honest.
That she does, yeah. Well, either they were honest or she does not want to talk about that. So, more questions about Fred. Was Fred injured in the crash? Yep.
Oh, that was fast.
That was fast. It's coming back around. There's too much momentum. Okay.
Did Amelia have a head injury? No.
during the crash when she crashed the
Yeah,
plane.
did she crash?
Have a head injury. That's kind of non-committal.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought. I see more impact injury.
Oh, yep. Way
Nailed
to
it.
go, Sarah. Impact injury more than head injury. I was thinking like torso, like
Yeah,
internal.
like intestinal. Did
Yep.
you did Amelia die from internal bleeding?
Yep.
Yep. That's what I thought. Did Fred have the head injury?
It's thinking. It's swinging. Yes.
Yes.
That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how long was Amelia able to survive for more than 1 week on the island? Yes. Was she able to survive more than 2 weeks on the island? Dang. Can you imagine 2 weeks alone? I wonder how long Fred lasted. Did she survive more than 3 weeks? I'm thinking it had to have been about a month. That'd be a long time to survive alone. Yes, more than 3 weeks. Did she survive for a month on the island? Yes. Did she
That was
survive?
like a just about.
Yeah. Did she survive longer than a month?
No. Oh,
Nope.
no.
Right about a month. That'd be a
Mm.
long ass time to survive
With
alone.
internal bleeding too.
Internal bleeding.
Yeah.
Hard,
She's
yeah.
like, yeah, it was painful, huh? Yeah,
That's
I bet.
yeah.
Did Fred die from his head injuries?
Yes.
Yeah, I bet he did.
I
Mhm.
feel like Fred died like in the first week.
Or within those couple of days.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah.
So she's been alone for 3 weeks trying to survive. Yep.
hmm
That's intense.
I'll let it uncross. Did Amelia see the rescue planes that were looking for her?
Oh,
Oh, heartbreaking. That was a yes. Oh
my
no.
heart. That hurts.
Oh no.
I was thinking about that. One of my kids' favorite movies is Alvin and the Chipmunks Chipwrecked. It's the third of the live action ones. And they're on this deserted island, and there's a part where they're so sad because they think Dave won't come rescue them. But every time I think about a scenario like this, or like Castaway or any of these, I don't know why Chipwrecked came into my mind first. That's real parenting for you. That's where my mind went. I just think about how painful it would be to know how close you are to being rescued and then have that hope fly away. I wonder if, actually, let's ask this. Did Amelia lose hope? The hope that kept her going after the plane left? Yep.
Yep.
Yep. That really sucks. It'd be hard to keep going like that, though. Like, you're alone on an island. I don't know if she had any way to make fire or any sort of shelter. Carol said yes, so maybe she had a way to make fire.
I have a question.
Okay, go.
She's like, yes.
What
I
is
want
it?
to know if her last radio transmissions was someone telling her that they weren't coming for her.
Yes.
Yeah. I had a weird feeling about that.
Why wouldn't they come for her? They spent all that money searching for her after the fact. Because she was a woman in a man's world.
Yep.
Except her husband, GP, made it a point to search for her. I just hit my microphone with these, so that might make a weird sound when we're recording. It's not an EVP. It was
It's not EVP. I am curious to see if anything came through during this, though.
I am too,
That would be
especially after
cool.
the last one. Yes.
Let's see. Amelia, can you say something into one of our microphones so that we can hear you?
She said yes. Gonna
Okay.
be like a fucking hawk. Like a hawk. I don't think hawks. That's watching like a hawk. You get the point. Listening like what? What's a good listener?
Like an elephant.
Yes. Giant ears.
Giant ears. Okay. Well,
Okay.
now is your opportunity to say whatever you would like.
Through Tara, because the
Oh, yes.
rods
Okay.
can only
Or
answer
through me.
yes.
Mhm. So ask me some questions.
Well, what was it like for her on the island? How did she survive for so long? Eating crabs, drinking coconut water? Did she have any other resources available to her? I think that's what I'm mostly curious about.
Well,
Tara's the
I wonder if she had like snacks, like food, like on board that maybe went buoyant in the water,
probably
you know?
lasted her for very long though.
Yeah.
Because when I was listening to that documentary, when she flew across the Atlantic,
Mhm.
didn't eat a bunch when she was flying. One of her
Right.
really flights, she only drank a can of tomato juice. And when she flew across the Atlantic, that was about a 15-hour flight. And she brought along hot chocolate and an egg salad sandwich, but she said that she didn't eat. So I'm thinking that she probably avoided eating or drinking while she was flying because then she'd have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thought. I'm with you there.
So I'm not sure how much she would have had on board
Yeah.
to work
Well,
with.
Fred wasn't doing anything.
Fred wasn't, so there might have been some food on the plane.
Yeah.
And if she could access the radio, then she should have been able to access some of the contents of the plane. But it's not like she landed the plane on the sand, so they couldn't have even like stayed in the plane for shelter. You know what I mean?
Well, here's my thought though. Here's kind of what I see. Okay, so, and this is just purely speculation. If she did a hard landing and it was in the water and she saw the island as she was getting closer, my thought would be is that she would try to run it aground. You know what I mean? So you're running it down and pulling up into the water, but enough to pull it into, the shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
So that would probably explain
Actually, that's
why she still had radio access because I mean submerged.
it would have been a storm or a really high tide.
Yeah, that just pull it back out because it's not secured for sure. So that's kind of my thought on that, especially because there isn't any wreckage. There was a panel found, but I mean, that could have been from like her hitting the wing.
Yeah, well, so that panel that was found was debunked. There was
it? Okay.
I can't remember who it was. There was a mechanic who worked on her Electra that said it was not a part of it. And there was some other man who knew, I think he must have known Amelia. I can't remember how he ties in. It was in that. Actually, I watched a few documentaries, so now I can't remember where that was from. But the panel was mostly debunked, which is why I didn't include it. It is, I don't know, it still is interesting that a panel of an aircraft was found on that island, period, because how many crashes were there? You know what I mean?
Right.
So actually, well, let's ask the dowsing rods, unless she'll tell you.
I was just thinking, about the question.
Amelia's, that's a hard yes already. Never mind. It was, according to the dowsing rods, that was a part of her plane. So those people must have been mistaken. Right. Yes.
I'm pretty sure that yes. My question was, I was just thinking, because they had technically exhausted and they weren't, they had exhausted all the options of finding her and she didn't know where she was, that argument that girl had was accurate. She was like, come on, you have to come and find me. You have to come and look for me. Please just do one more circle around. Here's where I am. Here's what it looks like. And they just were like, no, we're not coming. Yeah. kind of a thing.
Swirling a little bit too much. I'm not sure if that's a yes or
Probably it's like a lot of information.
But I thought that the argument that she was having with the man was her and Fred arguing about something, because if he had an injury, he wouldn't have been in his right state of mind. And if they were sitting in the plane and all he wanted to do was find a shady place to sit and rest, that's what he was imagining.
Yeah, maybe. Or he was unconscious at the time. But I feel like this was a later, I was thinking later
on.
Yeah. Where they were still hearing like radio things from her.
It says yes later, but I can't imagine that. It just makes me so mad to think that if they still had radio contact, sorry, I just dropped a bit of the dowsing rod. There's these little covers. This is what makes it spin. You put the actual rod part in here. But then if you don't hold on tight to them, they'll just fall and crash.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because she says she was there for quite some time, so I think within that week.
Yes, she was there for.
Yeah, that she was trying to get them to come her direction, but they just weren't like, they're like, no, Amelia, we've already been there. You're not there.
Yeah, they must have overshot, or because it looked like the directions that they were looking at. The interesting thing is that GP, her husband, and her mom both insisted that that island be searched. And so there was some flyovers over that island, but they didn't see the plane. So the plane had to have gotten washed away or like taken back by the ocean, like relatively early, because that would have been the biggest giveaway. Where is her plane? That's probably what they were looking for, because a plane on an island is easier to spot than a single person.
And because it wasn't, anchored or anything. I mean, surely if there was damage to the plane, it's now taking on water. And that was probably why it ended up being upside down and having the wheel up.
Yep. It's saying yes over and over.
Yes.
Yes. So I know that GP and Amelia's mom organized a search for that area where she was in, because it seemed like the government was focusing on the Marshall Islands, which was the Japanese controlled island, and other areas. They weren't focusing on the island that she was actually on as much. From what I understood, they were searching like the wrong places.
Yeah. Interesting.
Gave me sad feels. So
it gives me very sad feels.
I don't like the idea of that at all.
I don't either. It makes me so sad that she was there for so long. But look at how
unbearably long time to survive alone.
Oh my God.
Okay, Fred, I guess Fred was technically there for like,
I wonder if she ate him.
At least a week, but how much help was he with his head injury?
Well, I don't think he lasted very long, is what it looked like. So I bet I'm
sorry.
Is everybody home?
No.
Oh, I wonder if his injuries, like I keep seeing him have like broken bones, like maybe leg injuries too, and then head injury from like, hitting like the side. He was in the back
plane, he was probably more jostled around than she was. So sorry.
Yeah, I just feel like there was a lot more injury that he sustained, but I mean, I see her like hitting. So that's why I think they like ran aground, though. I don't know. But I wonder if she ate him.
Should we ask? If she didn't eat him, then the coconut crabs definitely.
Hey man, when you're starving.
It gives me icky feels.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Did you eat Fred Noonan? Oh my God. You. It said yes for those of you that are just listening. You.
Hey, you know what? Desperate times call for desperate measures. And if she's fucking starving,
eat some fucking coconut crabs. They're everywhere. But I wonder if she had a way to kill the coconut crabs. They're 3
sticks.
They're 3 feet long. Like I'm 5'6", so like at least
Lots of fire.
Lots of fire. Who's your very good boy, fierce guardian of this home? Yes, I love you very much. You're a very good boy.
Yeah, I don't think I have any like questions. I'm just trying to figure out
They're
like,
just like spinning now.
yeah,
I mean, there wasn't really that many questions to go with this because I think that's what we both thought had happened to her, except for the eating bit. Ugh.
I'm sorry. I had to know because it was
Okay.
on my mind. And I'm going
It
to
was
tell you
a
right
question.
now. I'm going to tell you right now, if I am on a desert island and I am starving and there is a chance that I would survive, but somebody was dead, I would do what I could to stay alive because she had some sort of medical training. So I feel like she was diagnosing herself and Fred and then was just like, you know what? He's not going to make it. He's probably going to die. So am I, but he's dead and I could probably eat him if I cook him really well. Too bad I don't have any Johnny's seasoning, but this will do for now.
Well, what was that one soccer team? Like it's happened plenty of times where people have eaten, humans, and I guess we need a trigger warning for cannibalism. Who would
Yeah,
have?
seriously.
Sorry,
Apple is definitely not going to air this one.
they did put our Connor episode back. Actually,
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
they did put that one back, so it was only a
All
temporary
right.
removal.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, that's really what I wanted to know was did she make it? Because I always felt like she did. I never thought that she died instantly.
And I never thought
She
that
knew.
she would have found a way to land anywhere she could. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. I do too. It was just the safest way she could have possibly handled that because she was skilled. She was trying to save their lives in hopes
And all
that somebody would come get her.
Yeah, and the information with the headwinds makes so much sense. Why you're very good. Why the fuel ran out earlier than it should
I
have.
wonder, well, let's see, January.
More than enough to last them. Like they had an excess of fuel, so like things
I
had to
wonder,
run out.
yeah, I mean, I wonder if they were running into like tropical depressions. Like when
It's summertime.
it's summertime, but there.
Well, I mean, I know that that's on the other side, but I think it's about the same time frame anyways.
Yeah.
The official start of hurricane season is June 1st. So this year it's been weird because there's been one that developed on the other side in the Atlantic Ocean already. And there's one or maybe 2 spots right now that are developing ahead of schedule. But if this was in January, then there shouldn't have been anything like that. I mean, there could have definitely still have been storms, don't get me wrong, but it wouldn't have been like hurricane level storms. And I think that there would have been some record of that because that would have been the theory to be like, look at the storm. We got caught in this storm.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm so curious. Did they
let's ask if Fred miscalculated, because I think that Fred Noonan probably miscalculated their straight line. Yep. He miscalculated.
Way to go, Fred.
They weren't in the spot because when she's flying over, they were not in the right place. Because when she was radioing that ship, she was saying we should be right over you, and that they couldn't see the island. Now the boat went out to look for them because they knew how close her plane was because it was on their radar. So they were close, but they were just far enough off that they couldn't find it. So they had to have circled and circled and circled, just like desperately searching for the island that they were supposed to refuel at. And when they couldn't find it, just looking for literally anywhere to land, hoping that someone would come and get them. And they didn't. Bitches.
Fred.
Fred.
Screw it up.
Fred.
Did you tell him he was wrong?
It said it went to no immediately. I think he probably feels a bit defensive of Fred. Whatever happened seems like it was
an accident. Yeah, for sure. It could have happened. I mean, they're over the sea for sure.
Yeah. So that was a hard yes.
Yeah.
So, I think she would want to defend Fred even from now.
Sure.
I'm
I
not going.
mean, anybody can do that even with the right instrumentation too.
I get lost in my car with a so like, I have an actual computer telling me when to make turns, and I still manage to get lost. So
Yeah, exactly.
use a
That's
sextant and a freaking map. You know what I mean?
yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, is there anything else you want to know? Do you want to tap in? Is there anything you want to tap in about, or are you good?
No, I think we pretty much answered my questions.
Swinging, hitting me in the neck.
Is there anything else that she would like to share with us?
Good question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that can be on you.
Okay.
Next time I'll do a longer card reading. I wanted to mention this. I forgot about it. Oh man, I can't remember her Instagram tag right now, but her name is Victoria. She listens to the show. I've been chatting with her on Instagram a little bit. She's wonderful. She sent me a spread today about like what really happened, like historical context, what really happened to spread. It's a nice, long, in-depth one. So I'm going to do that for Amelia, and then I'll post it. I'll post it to my Instagram, but we can share it to ours too. And I'm at the Village Tarot Witch on Instagram. Okay, now go.
Basically, there's kind of a lot of things. There is clearly, obviously, some regret about not finishing
I thought
that.
that would bother her because she was so close. So close. 7,000.
Yeah. And it's almost kind of like, like I proved them right that I couldn't do it, that I wasn't going to be able
She
to
didn't prove them
succeed.
right. That wasn't her fault.
Yeah, I know. But that they're like in the back of her mind, that was like one of her thoughts, you know? So she was kind of hard on herself about that. But she's talking to me about her husband.
The heart
And
and the home came up. I thought she had to have been thinking about him.
yeah, she's talking to me about her husband. This is funny because she's like, I wish he would have just moved on. Did he get married again?
I don't know.
I don't know. We'll have to look because that's what she's saying. I wish he would have moved on.
Oh, that's
I would have wanted him to be happy as I was happy with him. He gave her a lot of freedom, which I think to some degree she took advantage of.
well, if you've seen the
Um,
movie with Hilary Swank, she did have some affairs.
did she? Yeah, because then she's like, but she's making me feel that he was like one woman guy.
I think he really, really, really
Yeah.
loved her.
And he just kind of he saw her for who she was, and so he just let her be.
She was
You know,
incredible. I mean,
he was a good husband. But I think she's a bit regretful about that, and that's what she's making me feel is like I really wish he would have remarried and moved on and had a life, because the life I didn't want, he could have still had.
oh, well,
So I'm
that's
curious to know if he ever got remarried or if he did and it just wasn't the same. But
if she has anything else to say, she can keep going, and I'll Google it real quick.
yeah.
Sorry.
So
That's
that's kind of how I feel about that. But she's very grateful to him for that. Also,
he did not.
Fred
Oh, hang on. No, he did. Oh, but you know what?
didn't last very long, did it?
He did remarry. He had two wives after her, but neither one of them lasted long. And
Yeah.
okay, no, this one's not right. The timeline is wrong. So yeah, he did have two wives after her, but none of them lasted long. He married Jean Marie James, and their marriage was from 1939 to 1945. And I think he probably would have been too heartbroken over Amelia still.
Mm-hmm.
That one wouldn't, that's only 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has a question mark for the other woman. Her name is Margaret Haviland.
They weren't married.
Haviland. Well, it just says they don't know when she was married, but it ended in 1950. So that would have only been 5 years.
And they list her as a spouse because she's like, no, they weren't married. Whatever, it's not important. But
spouses, but yeah, I mean, she might not have been a spouse. Hang on, I'll go to his Wikipedia page.
Yeah, but she's also talking to me about Fred.
As a spouse, they got married in 1945 and they got divorced. Oh no, they didn't get divorced. He died in 1950.
Okay. Because she's like, no, they didn't get married. That's what she's literally said to me. No, they didn't.
Well,
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, Amelia.
No hard feelings.
Wikipedia says it's not us.
Sorry.
Wikipedia.
That's why I was like, what? I feel like she's a bit possessive of her men, just to be fair.
I was going to say, I don't see her as being open to sharing. I think she wanted that freedom. But you know what?
She wanted that freedom, but she expected. Yeah. Yeah. So as far as Fred Noonan goes, she's expressing deep remorse for not being able to do more for him.
That makes sense too.
But I also feel like he was kind of this is going to sound really bad, but he was almost kind of aloof most of the time anyways.
He seemed like an laid back kind of guy.
Yeah, he was just kind of like,
whatever.
He was very, you know how men are when they're very like really analytical and very like numbers, and they're just very like factual, like they don't have much of a personality. That's kind of how he was. So when he joked, it was like very far and few between, but he was a very nice person, but he was just kind of like checked out all the time because he was like processing things all the time. But she's expressing that
awful for if he was coherent enough to feel awful. I bet he felt horrible for miscalculating. I wonder if they fought in the plane, if they had a bit of like an argument, like, where are we, Fred? You said that we're supposed to be here. Where is the island?
Yeah. I think there was that moment of panic. And then she was just kind of like, well, it's not going to fucking do us any good to argue about it because we're fucking stuck. So what do we do? And can you, well,
no, what do you need? I'll do it.
It's like he kept calling her his wife's name or a child's name over and over and over again.
Oh, that would be awful.
Yeah, so I think that weighed just so heavy on her too. I think the thing is that she just felt very responsible because this was her mission and she was doing it.
So I don't see any children listed, but his wife, so he had married, her name was Josephine Sullivan, but they divorced in 1937. He remarried also in 1937 a woman named Mary Beatrice Passadori. So that would have been the year that they went missing. Was it Mary?
Okay. No.
Was it Josephine? It doesn't have any children listed.
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you, but whoever he was calling was very repetitive. Like he just kept calling her that name or calling out for her over and over and over again.
I absolutely hate that.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I think she was just kind of like,
imagine having to live, like knowing he's dying and like having to listen to that and being stuck on an island.
I think too, like,
I'd rather have a quick end, if I'm being honest. That sounds miserable.
Can you ask the dowsing? Can you use the dowsing rods for me? Because I'm having like conflicting.
Okay, what do you want me to ask
here? I want to know if Fred was septic from his injuries.
Septic shock.
Yeah,
Did
if he was in
go into-
septic shock.
Fred Noonan go into septic shock? They're thinking. Give him a second. They're slowly moving.
Yes.
It wasn't a super. Okay, well, they're being more firm now. It
Okay.
took a little while. So
Was the septic shock from his, well, it had to have been from his injuries. Did he have a leg injury?
yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. That's what I kept seeing, was that this leg
But I
injury
wonder if
was
the
like
septic shock took a while to set in.
Yeah, I think it did.
It had that really slow. So I think he was going to die regardless.
Yeah, so he had a couple of things going on. So he had the head injury going on, and then he had like a leg fracture, which then became infected, and then he got like gangrene and sepsis and all of that fucking shit. Well, maybe not gangrene, but definitely sepsis.
Yes, over and over again to confirm what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So, okay, because that's what I was seeing was like a horrific leg injury.
Yeah. Yeah. So between the brain injury, which would have done him in on its own, and then the leg injury. So I think the septic shock might have been what actually killed him, but he would have survived regardless. So I think that was why there was that initial, like, when it was starting to say yes and wasn't doing anything. I think that's
yeah, I mean, yeah. So I would say maybe his death time frame was 2 to 3 weeks. Yes. That's a long time to be in agony.
A week earlier, though. Yep.
Yeah.
Earlier. I don't know. That's a little bit up in the air.
Yeah.
That would be a long time. He would have survived. If he went into septic shock, though, how would she be able to eat him? Wouldn't that like taint his bloodstream? His whole body would be infected.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe she just, I don't know.
I don't know. Well, also, there clearly is some accuracy. Like, who knows?
I don't know. Maybe it was more like, yeah, because I don't know. That just keeps coming up time and time again, is this leg injury was just really fucking bad. Really bad, like super bad, hanging off kind of a thing.
How did he not just bleed out then?
How did he get out?
No, how did he not bleed out?
Oh, I'm pretty sure he fucking did.
Well,
I mean, she's
if he bled out.
Okay, but what happens like when
but she
don't
did
quote me.
Medical training, so she could have
She
put
did.
it.
So she probably, and she wore pants. They both wore pants, so they probably had a belt of some time. But if it was traumatic enough of an injury, I think sometimes they actually just cauterize themselves, like they stop. I don't know. Don't quote me. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Any of this. This is
Probably a belt. We're going with the belt.
I would say she
probably the belt, but it was like hanging off and shit. It was really bad. Multiple fracture kind of a thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. But maybe she ate the calf, the leg that wasn't infected.
But if your bloodstream is infected, then I don't know. Maybe she ate the meat and then I made her sick too.
I mean, with internal injuries, how can you properly digest human flesh anyways?
Yeah.
You eat the bottom of the foot.
Gross.
No, I'm just kidding. That was in a show, in a movie I just watched.
Ew.
Tips on cannibalism 101. No, I don't know anything about traumatic injuries, but I swear I read that once. I don't remember. But anyways, it's like the blood just stops flowing there. I don't fucking know.
Well, I think I hear my husband's truck, so we better.
Cool. I think we're good. That was great.
Oh no, never mind. It wasn't him. I checked my camera.
Oh,
my front door camera. Sorry, the driveway camera. It's not him. Just with someone going by. I think that's.
Did you have any other questions? I think they pretty much answered them.
That's pretty much. That's what I thought happened to her for a long time. Was the third island? I mean,
yeah.
kind of hard
Her
to
story is pretty cut and dry. I mean, there really isn't much left to the imagination except for where they were and how they died.
talking about how it's a mystery. Like, come on, you found bones, you found stuff that literally could not have belonged to anyone else.
Right.
What other pasty white woman was on this deserted island? Come on. Freckle cream and makeup by the company in the shade that she used. Like, come on. Come on.
It's
Someone
not
go back.
Hello, here's your sign. Whoever the forensic people on that team needs to be fired.
And the fact that they lost her bones, I think the only reason they haven't officially said that this is what happened is because they want to find her plane, samesies, and they want her actual body. But
wouldn't that be cool if they could recover the flight, the black box?
Would be so cool.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
I wonder if it'd still be intact all these years though, because that was,
I don't know.
How long ago was that? I wonder if you can still pull anything from that. 1937 is what I said. 35. 1935. We're in 2011. 2011. What's 2021?
Where are you?
Clearly not in 2021 right now. 2011. That was nonsense. Oh, numbers. You see, I'm not a numbers. Person. I can't do numbers.
Ghosts don't require us to be good at math.
Ghosts don't require us to be good at math. All they require us is to be okay with things. This was a little bit too much cannibalism talk for me. Not gonna lie. That was
sorry. Scorpio just goes right for it. Did she eat him?
Okay. It was fun.
He said no.
Just like
that was so important to the investigation.
Like knowing that she ate him is one thing, but then once you asked about the sepsis, that like takes on a whole new level of like ick factor. It was already gross. And then when she might have eaten his like gross infected corpse, Amelia, eat coconut crabs.
Maybe she tried and it was just like
took a bite of it and was like
I mean, do you blame her? She's like, coconut life it is.
No. Crabs, you could eat the coconut milk, the coconut meat.
Yeah.
Pinched my hand.
She
like
could take like that femur bone and use it to wrap some clothing and use like a Indiana Jones style torch, and keep the crabs away.
The idea of the crabs eating her after she died, though, I hate that idea. I mean, I'm positive that that's what happened to her.
Hey, man, nature.
But like, man, they had to eat bread too, because I don't think she would have been able to bury him. She would have been hurt.
Probably. Cool. All right. Well, I think we're gonna end it here, and then.
But before we go,
what are we gonna do next week?
You can find us. Oh, good question. I was gonna say you can find us on Instagram at Haunted Housewives Podcast. You can find us separately. I am the Village Tarot Witch. I'm Carly. Tara can be found at the Optimistic Oracle, mystic spelled with a Y. And we're on YouTube now. So if you enjoy listening to us and you want to see what our hands and faces are doing while we talk.
We're smiling more.
Hello. Guarantee that there's not some RBF in between. Oh, no, we already know what we're doing. So next week, we're going to deviate from historical cases a little bit because we want to talk about spirit guides.
Yes, that's right.
And that'll be a more relaxed. I mean, I don't think we're ever super formal.
But this one will be good because we're going to talk about it and we're going to break down some of the misconceptions around it, and you get to learn about us and how we use them, or not use them, but how we work with them, and just more of kind of a get to know us session too. So
exactly. Well, I mean, we don't have any questions that people have submitted to answer, but absolutely. You have a week. If you were hearing this before we recorded the spirit guide episode and you have a question about spirit guides, let us know.
Please send it to our email at thehauntedhousewivespodcast@gmail.com, and we are happy to answer them. Please do not send them to our Instagram DM because we may or may not answer them. So please, please, please send it to our email. That's why we made it.
Checking message requests. So if they go to the message request folder, they're just like lost. We do check the email though.
Yes.
And the other thing is that
now that we know the password to the email that we set up.
Yeah, we're lucky that one of my computers kept us logged in, because when I tried to go back, neither one of us could remember the password. We had to reset it.
Oops.
Oh, so professional.
Oh, well.
Anyways, you can also get a reading from Tara and I combined through our Etsy shop. We're calling them consultation readings for now. We're only applying them to haunted scenarios for the time being.
Yes.
So if you have anything that falls in the realm of haunting, haunted object, haunted place, what have you, and you would like us to look into that for you, you'll get a very in-depth chalkboard from me like you would see on my Instagram page or my blog. And then I'll present it to you, and then Tara will do what she does. That's my husband's truck this time. So with that, we will sign off.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening. Sorry about the cannibalism.
I'm not. Hey, it's part of being stranded and the story. So there we are. I will put a warning in though.
Bye.
Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Haunted Housewives podcast. Join us again next time as we continue to deep dive into the more unexplainable happenings from around the world. That's here only on the Haunted Housewives podcast.